It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and Cork the Kid.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom. From movies, comics, TV shows, video games, we got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. Court, this episode's been 3 weeks in the making, because we actually showed a surprising amount of restraint.
Yeah, we did. We
did. Not talking about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, which is Madam Web.
Nope.
Waiting for...
Nope. Maybe one day.
Yeah, the producers are telling me we're talking about X-Men 97.
Yes.
Arguably, one would say not as good as Madam Web.
Some might argue that, I guess. Sony would argue that, I suppose.
They'd be right.
So yeah, Madam Web is on Netflix now. I can't wait. We're going to talk
about the streaming numbers.
They're high.
They're high.
They're very high.
Very high.
I mean, I'm not surprised, I guess. We'll talk about Madam Web one day. We have to.
We'll have to.
Yeah, we're contractually obligated to do that. But yes, we are going to talk about the finale to X-Men 97. We've been waiting to do this because obviously the last time we talked about the show, we talked about how episodes 8, 9, and 10 were going to be a 3-part finale, Tolerance is Extinction, and it did not disappoint.
Right.
In the slightest.
Right. And we had been told after episode 5 came out, Bo DeMaio came out and said, if you think I think this was in the beginning of the season after the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
We finally got the episode titles for everything. And he said 5 is going to be a real showstopper, which it was. I mean, once 5 hit, I think that's because everybody knew this show was really good. And then 5 happened and people said, oh, this show is actually like credible as well. Like this is just good television, regardless of animated. Like it does not matter. This is just good television. And then after that, we were told, no. 8, 9, and 10, as a summation of this season, are going to be the ones.
And
he was right.
He was right. So we're going to talk about Tolerance is Extinction as a whole, as a 3-episode arc. But before that, we do have some news, starting with some Marvel news, some very confusing Marvel news. I'm going to get out in front of and say this right now. So the first thing is a Vision series is in development, which we knew this a long time ago, did we not? Wasn't it called like Vision Quest?
Yeah, it was called Vision Quest.
So I don't know why we're reconfirming this, but...
we're getting just like the release dates of everything.
Because they changed everything around.
Right.
So they've reshuffled things in the Marvel Studios banner. So there's Marvel Studios, which is, we're talking like taglines, right? So there's Marvel Studios, which is obviously your mainline MCU films, yada yada. Nothing changes there. There's Marvel Television, which is going to be your live action series, essentially. Then you have Marvel Animation, which is obviously spearheaded, I think, by X-Men 97 at this point. And then I guess the Marvel Spotlight stuff falls under the television banner?
I would assume so. Because I guess for that, weirdly enough, the elephant in the room would be... Well, Spotlight, Echo was the first Spotlight, correct?
Echo's the first one, and then Wonder Man is going to be the next Marvel Spotlight show.
Done by Daniel Destin Cretton, or is he gone from that?
I can't remember. I don't know if he's still doing it or not.
Yeah, because I know he's one of the big names that keeps getting thrown around Secret Wars as well, too. So,
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, so Paul Bettany is tapped to return, and we talked about this off air, but this just feels way too late in the game for this.
Yeah. I don't think it's as big as an offender as we'll talk about Agatha in a little bit, but I don't think it's as big of an offender as that, but it's still the same concept. This magic is lost, unfortunately. This magic happened almost when this show comes out. That would have been 6 years prior. 6 years is insane.
Yeah.
To revisit a character that's not, your big seller character, for lack of a better term.
No, and I mean, the reason why the Vision is so compelling nowadays in the MCU is because of the relationship with Wanda.
Right.
So she's not going to be around. I don't particularly know what the draw is here.
And it's more, the only counter I'll make to that is there's good stories. And what I think they're going to do, you're going to do the Tom King Vision, essentially, where Vision gets a wife and kids, essentially. And it's just very,
we saw him have a wife and kids already, though.
Sure. And which they pulled a lot of inspiration for. I mean, that was one of the books they said to read was Tom.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of already drew a lot of inspiration from this.
Right.
So I don't know.
Unless, because obviously the Agatha show is coming out this year, unless you kind of play on that fact, and I forget the actor's name who's playing Billy in Agatha. I don't know what the name is.
It's Agatha All Along. Is the official title.
I hate that they pulled one over on us for it too.
It's pretty good.
We should have known better.
If that was the whole plan with the Agatha thing, like the whole time with the titles and the Mr. X, it's pretty smart.
Right.
It's pretty good.
Right.
But also, I mean, I don't know, the synopsis for the Agatha show, they said something about it being like detective-like, and like Agatha's like going after like magical mysteries, and I'm like, that could be something.
It could have been something 4 years ago, maybe.
I think the only way this Agatha show works is Catherine Hahn putting up just incredible numbers.
You're gonna also have to bank on Aubrey Plaza as well too, being great.
Yeah,
and
which, I mean, to be fair, if you're gonna put your eggs in those two baskets,
it's not bad.
That's a pretty healthy bet, yeah, I would say.
Just broad spectrum. I just don't know. Again, the magic at this point, I just think it's gone. I
get it.
I know. I think it's gone. I just think it's too little, too late. You know, obviously people are going to watch it, but I think this is going to probably perform somewhere close to Echo, regardless of... You're going to have to truthfully make something absolutely incredible. I don't know if we're going to get something absolutely incredible. Obviously, right. We're going to watch it. Obviously, we're going to point out whatever good you get out of it. But again, broad spectrum speaking, I don't know if this is this the right thing to be doing right now? Like, is this what you should be spending any amount of time or money on?
Probably not, but it's also one of those things where we've talked about this before with them, where like they don't cancel things often. Mm-hmm. You know, so I feel like they announced it. They're like, well, got to do it.
But I can go ahead and just turn that whole point over, because what happened to Eternals 2? They said, we're not doing it, so that...
I mean, for now.
For now. And I just think you left Eternals off at such a place where you need something. And also, you know, I know this is kind of... It's not sidetracking, but it's part of a bigger issue is, you know, my thing is you keep getting these incredible actors and just not giving them something to do for so long. Like, that wasn't a problem from 2008 to 2019, where right. These actors are just sitting on a shelf for, I'm talking years. Like, if it was like 3 years, people would have been like, in the past, would be like, where the heck has this person been? Like, Simu Liu's not going to get his movie at this point, in terms of announcements, till 2026. His first movie came out in 2021.
Yeah, it's
6
crazy.
years in between a movie. Doctor Strange didn't have to suffer from that because he was in movies in between. He was in, 4 movies in between his own? So you have that, and I mean, my big one is, like, Anthony Mackie's a big one. Like, we haven't seen him since 2021, and
he's Captain America.
He's Captain America, and we're not going to see him until 2025.
Yeah.
You know, the Eternals. I don't know why I thought about this one, but it's Dane Whitman. It's Kit Harington. Like, it will forever boggle my mind that you get Jon Snow, and this is again to this point of waiting too long. Like, the mystique behind Kit Harington, unfortunately, is going by the wayside. As soon as Game of Thrones ended, the clock started ticking on, you need to get them in here as soon, because people need to, unfortunately, this is how people work, is they're gonna use their association. So that's what helped Eternals a little bit too, with the two of them being in the movie.
Yeah, 100%.
So you got to use that to your advantage. It helps Secret Invasion a bit. The mystery behind who Emilia Clarke was playing, and then we found out it was Talos' daughter. Like, ooh,
yikes. Yeah, I totally agree. And it felt like for like a little bit there, they at least were saying all the right things, and then we have the Vision thing, and then this other thing. And look, I just want to preface this by saying Taylor Swift is great. Okay, don't come after me.
She's cool. She's very famous.
I'm a fan. I like what she's about. So she has apparently met with Kevin Feige about not just a potential role in the MCU, but a starring role in a thing that I don't know what it's called. What is it called?
It's called
Blonde something other?
Atomic Blonde. Just kidding.
Nope.
Just kidding, David Leitch. JK. I love the Fall Guy, by the way. It's called... Why are we making this show?
Blonde Phantom. I didn't make that up. That's the real thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're doing this. That seems like a misuse of Taylor Swift. I mean, with Deadpool out in the ether, anything is possible, right? I wouldn't rule out this being one big joke headline to cover up the fact that she's going to be Dazzler in Deadpool.
Which I just there's no earthly way that she's not playing Dazzler in that movie.
It is 100%. Like I said, I wouldn't put anything past like the machine behind Deadpool that they would push this headline out there that she's going to be in some random thing called the Blonde Phantom, and then Deadpool comes out and she's Dazzler. I think that would be really great, actually. Because this, I just don't know who this is for, other than Taylor Swift fans, who also probably may not be that interested in like a superhero thing. If
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised after what happened.
Well, yeah, I know, but that the football thing, like, she was there every week, whereas like the Blonde Phantom is surely not going to be a part of like the greater MCU, where all the Taylor Swift people are going to be like, gonna go back and watch every Marvel movie just to catch up to Taylor Swift's role. They'd watch her thing and then she'd be done, and then they'd also be done. So like I don't know who this is for.
If it's bad, they'd besmirch the very name that is Marvel.
Right.
And you don't want that to happen either.
No, you don't. No, you don't. So I don't know. I told you I'm not. I guess that's my big brain conspiracy, that this headline is like a fake headline and she's just actually going to be in Deadpool, and I think that would be great, actually. Because yeah, she's been in stuff. She's acted in stuff before.
Yeah.
So I think she could do like a fun little bit, a la like Brad Pitt in Deadpool 2.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
She could do like a fun little Dazzler bit, I think, where she sings a song.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's right up her alley. So
original song, maybe?
That'd be cool.
Just like Celine Dion did for Deadpool 2.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. So yeah, Marvel, for a little, they had me in the first half. I'm like, oh, are they actually being smart about some things? And then this stuff came out. I'm like, I don't know. So, The Rock. We talked about this a while ago, that he was going to do this A24 movie, and we were like,
You said A24, and I'm like, ooh. And then you said Benny Safdie, I was like, ooh.
Right. So he's going to do...
And then you said biopic on top of it, I said, ooh.
Yeah, so he's going to be in The Smashing Machine, which is a biopic about an MMA fighter. And we got our first look, and look, man, The Rock might be doing some cinema.
Yeah.
He put a wig on.
He did put a wig on.
He covered up the tattoos.
He did.
It's more work than he's done for any movie ever.
Even the movie where he was supposed to change.
I don't think he's worn a wig in a movie since The Scorpion King.
Was that wig CGI?
No, surely not. I think that was the last time he wore a wig, honestly. I'd have to go through it, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't worn a wig since The Scorpion King. So, look, all of it was a screenshot, but I don't know. Maybe he's turning in the corner. Maybe he's going to take a crack at some acting for once, and not just be The Rock in something.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. Your immediate comparisons you're going to think about is, Mickey Rourke in the Wrestler. I don't know if I want to go as far to say like Gyllenhaal in Southpaw, something like that. But it's just physicality. That's the first thing you're going to get him for. And as many jokes as we make about The Rock, all these things too. Like, he has been in Hollywood for forever. He's the
biggest grossing movie star of all time.
Right, and that's the
year
point.
After year.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, he's still a movie star, so I think he warrants being able to get something like this. Like, this is fine. Like, if it's good, it's good. Again, it's Benny Safdie. Like, you know how I feel about this. Like, if you get the person if you get it's not about the thing, it's about the personnel on the thing can make most anything look great. So, and
I'll say this. He'll never admit this. He'll never admit it because that's not who he is. But I think the Black Adam thing humbled him.
Sure.
A bit.
Sure. And you see the turn, too, because it went from, like, I need to be doing this big budget thing. And I said, is that really where Hollywood is headed for a lot of these actors sometimes? And these actors, like, go out of their way nowadays to, like, I forget which actor talked about it. It might have been Stallone, where he was just like, if this was the 80s, you went to TV to die, and you went to those low-budget movies to die when it was, like, the 70s, 80s, 90s. Now you go to those to keep your career going. So... obviously, the Rock's career would never be in jeopardy, but...
no. I mean, as we saw, he came back to do wrestling for a little bit.
Right.
And it got, like, the biggest ratings that WWE has seen in, like, 10 years.
Right. Exactly.
So, I mean, look, I think he's just as entitled to give a real acting gig a shot as anyone. I I mean, it's definitely interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can just look at the Safdie brothers' body of work as well too.
Right.
So I'm not concerned. I'm looking forward to something like this, and hopefully, listen, if he does a good job, I don't know if he's gonna just get immediate scrutiny for something like this. I don't know if they're gonna try to pull the Brendan Fraser comparisons from The Whale to try to comp this of being like, whoa, he's just Oscar baiting a bit, like.
And maybe he is.
Sure.
Maybe he is.
I obviously I never thought Brendan Fraser did that. The Rock, maybe? I don't know.
The Rock, that feels like something The Rock is definitely capable of. After he bought out Times Square to promote Black Adam. Yeah. So, I'm interested though. I'm into it. The Last of Us is heating up. We got a.
Is it heating up, or is it gonna get real sad?
We got a release date. Tentative, like a release time frame.
First half of
which is what we said. It's the same thing. House of the Dragon ends, lull, and then boom, Last of Us. They're doing it again. Right. It's the same thing.
If I were them, that January slot I think is perfect because that puts you around the beginning of March.
Yeah.
Before all the big movies start coming out, where that's going to kind of own things. So I think it's a perfect time for them to operate. That January slot is money.
Yeah. So we got a time frame, and we got a first look of the new Joel look for Pedro Pascal, and the not new look for Ellie. Much to the chagrin of the internet.
Here we go again. Now she's too young looking. She was too old looking. Now she's too young looking. Make up your mind, internet. Yeah.
So Bella Ramsey.
Saw some set photos of her and Isabella Marquette as well.
Yep.
As Dina.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, I couldn't be more excited for this thing. You put this in the hand of Craig Mazin, like this is going to turn out great. Just the same energy from season 1 you keep up. Obviously, just the big question is, where does this season take place? Because, I mean, the thing with Joel there, and presumably, spoilers for the game, you can leave now. Presumably, the scene where we got the set photo of Joel is from where Ellie basically tells Joel, like, you're not my dad, essentially.
Yeah, it's the dance scene, yeah.
Right. Big scene for her. Big scene for Dina.
Big scene for the story of The Last of Us 2, because that moment keeps getting revisited throughout the game. And I am expecting that to be similar for the show as a means of kind of keeping Pedro Pascal around throughout the season.
I told you. What you do is you might need to get a little creative with keeping the infected. Like, maybe you do, you kind of keep the same thing where maybe the patrols are kind of like what keeps happening. You focus on Ellie and Dina's relationship, keep it on growing and growing. Obviously, and then the love triangle that's going to create with Jesse as well, too. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of, you keep exploring Joel. And I mean, what you can also do, and I kept saying this, and then it's funny that Fallout came out, and I forget the woman that played, who was the villain? Not the villain, who we thought was the villain in Fallout. But,
Moldaver.
Yeah, Moldaver. The Scar Queen, their Lord and Savior of Seattle, the Scar Queen. I feel like she would be a perfect person to play that. But maybe you start to explore that on Abby's side. You're going to do a lot of heavy lifting for Abby. I think that's kind of what you're going to have to do in season 2.
I think you have to.
You got to make it, because the people that know, and then the people that don't know are going to have to be like, oh, Abby's this, I don't know why we're here, but Abby's this pretty good character, and then once fates cross, then it's going to be like, because, again, unfortunately, I forget the actress who's playing Abby, but she's going to get unfortunately, and it's sickening to even think about it this way, but she's going to get absolutely demolished on the internet after the thing happens. So
I think what you have to do for the TV show, and I think it's where the game kind of made a shortcoming a little bit, and I understand what the game is trying to do, but I think the TV show has to make Abby play more as a protagonist right out of the gate.
Yes, 100%.
I don't think the game does that. I mean, like I said, I understand what the game is trying to do. Like, they live in that morally gray space where, like, no one's a hero, but, like, you also have to make Abby's a little more sympathetic on the onset.
Yeah. What you need to do is the relationship between her and her father need to be like unbreakable. Like it needs to be something like, if something like that were broken, you would feel the same way with like Sam and Henry or Bill and Frank. Like, you need to feel like if the two of them were to ever break what they had, you would be just be distraught.
I think that's exactly what you do. I think because in the game the bit with Abby and her dad is a little bit of a mystery box that you kind of unpack throughout the game.
Lay the Owen stuff on top of that too. Like, all those things didn't converge, and then it's just where you jump in that game. I still think that game isn't as poorly structured as everybody says, but there's issues. There's big issues.
I think what you do is you spend a couple episodes of this second season with Abby and her father, and then you actually show us the crossroads moment at the hospital, and you're like, oh no. You know what I mean? Like, I think you want that shoe to drop before you have the cabin confrontation, because then it makes Abby's, what she does.
Yeah.
You understand it a little bit more, because you spent so much of the game like hating her for what she did.
And in the game, it's too little, too late at that point. Too.
Exactly.
It's like you're already there. You're like, well, I've already been emotionally invested in this morally great character, Joel. So him shooting up a hospital for all these people that I don't care about don't matter. But in a show structure, it can be like, I just spent weeks on end loving the relationship between this seemingly random girl and her father. And how they survive through the things, how her father's a caregiver, and a more essentially in this universe, how you can spin it is he's probably the most morally good person in this whole universe.
Yep.
And he was just brutally murdered for no reason by this crazy man who took away the only chance at saving the human race.
And the show did a really nice job when we talked about the show in that last episode, framing Joel's rampage through the hospital as like a thing where you're like, yeah, like they cut all the sound out, and it's just this.
It's like this specter moving throughout a space almost.
Yeah,
like
so they already kind of framed it as like he wasn't really heroic in that moment, whereas like the game presents it. Obviously, it's still not heroic, but you're still playing as Joel, and you're like, yeah, cool. I'll mow all these fireflies down, no problem. Kill this NPC doctor, who cares? So I think what the show has a great opportunity to do is get out in front of that with Abby and her dad, build that up, and not for nothing, it lets you keep Joel around a little bit longer than The Last of Us Part 2 does.
I just, like I said, whenever we talked about when obviously season 2 was greenlit, how you structure it. I'm having the last thing that happens in season 2 be the cabin. That's the last thing. You leave the season based right there. Just leave the season.
That would be pretty wild.
You leave the season there, and then you immediately jump to and then the next season is season 3 Seattle. That's all you're doing in season 3.
That would be kind of wild.
Is literally it's just Bella Ramsey's season after that too.
Yeah.
You bring Pedro Pascal around for just like what you do is also you have one episode halfway through the season, you do Ellie's birthday.
The museum.
You do the museum in one episode in there. And then you do that, and then if you want a season 4, you do Santa Monica maybe. Like I just don't know if you get that as a season. Season 3 would be Seattle and Santa Monica. That's all it would be. Yeah,
I'm super keen to see how they do this, man.
And I hate even having to think like this. I guess my only question for something like this is where does action lead in this bit? Because now we're in Uncharted. It's funny that it's in between space that we're in Uncharted territory. It's almost Star Warsian a little bit. Where it's like the cracks in between. How do you fill the space? I guess
it really depends on how much kind of material and world building that Druckmann had in the trunk for The Last of Us Part 2. That really depends. I think that really, like, if he has a bunch of stuff where he was like, if I had the time and the expansiveness to do this, I had this, and this. Mm-hmm. And if they're able to bring that to life, which they kind of did a little bit of in season 1, where he mentioned, like, there was a lot of stuff that they put into the show that he kind of left on the cutting room floor of the game, because obviously you can't put everything that you want in. So I'm curious. I'm sure he has stuff like that for Last of Us Part 2 as well. I'm super excited to see how they structure it at the end of the day. Like, I'm more curious to see how they structure this than they did Part 1 or Season 1. Yeah. Because I think Season 1 was relatively, you could follow the beats. Right. You kind of knew when one moment was going to lead to the next, to the next. Even I think we called them doing the Left Behind. And
that's my point, in between spot. I think in whatever subsequently season 3 would be, season 3 you take an episode to do the museum. Like, that should just be its own, and that should be like an homage to Joel and Pedro Pascal is what he's done in this role as well too.
I agree.
And you hold him off until you get, and then one episode it just opens and you see Pedro Pascal, who you've not seen for like 4 episodes. You're like, Daddy's home. He's back. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's what I would do. Season 2 is you really dive into Jackson, and then on the other side, you really need to do some work for Abby.
100%.
You got to do some work in Seattle as well too.
You can't present her as this either morally gray or too antagonistic figure. You just can't do it because you're gonna bury that character. Like, you're gonna have to do so much heavy lifting to try and quote unquote redeem that character if that's how you present her. And I just don't think audiences are gonna take to it.
Yeah, because, and I told you this, and this was the thing that I kind of said for Timothée Chalamet as well. It's like, you have to make them so charismatic that when they start doing the atrocities, you're like, oh, okay, I can still stomach this. Like, what you have to do for Abby is you got to make her, and I think how you do it is you got to do it through whoever plays your father as well too. Like, maybe you go out and get an actor that's like somebody, again, kind of like Pedro Pascal, like that's super charismatic. That's interesting. In a way where it's like, if this person also dies, I'm going to be beside myself if this person dies.
Make them like mirrors of each other.
Right.
That's a great idea.
Because I'm trying to think of an actor that can pull that off. That's just so lovable that, like, if this person were to die,
Tom Hanks.
Oh my God, Tom Hanks as their dad would be amazing.
He'd never do it.
He would never do it. But if you kill Tom Hanks, God, up in arms. We're up in arms. I'm gonna have to sit on that for a little bit. Who I think would be a
because they haven't casted her father yet.
I don't think so, and that's gotta be an important piece. They haven't casted Owen either, right?
No, I don't believe so.
Those things will probably come with time.
Soon, yeah.
They are gonna probably spend a lot of time in Jackson. And,
yeah.
I know, but again, some of the scenes that they're shooting are after the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they've shown Seattle set photos of Seattle stuff.
Ooh, unless they tell this story non-linearly.
They could.
If there's anybody to trust, it's Craig Mazin, if you're going to trust them to do that. So
I don't know. I'm super excited. Super excited. So last week we talked for several hours about this little show called Shogun, and we were like, man, it's going to be great. This is going to be like a time capsule. Like, remember Shogun? Like, how good that show was? It was going to be like Watchmen, like just this one and done, like just pristine, perfect television show. And then the day after we recorded that episode, they were like, Hiroki Sanada is signed on to do a season 2, potentially signed on to do a season 2 and a season 3 of Shogun. And I'm like, I don't know if I want that. And then they were like, it's happening, so deal with it. So the original showrunners are linking up with the Clavell estate. James Clavell wrote the novel Shogun. We talked last week about how this first season, only season at this point, covered the entire novel. So apparently the showrunners are working with the Clavell estate and James Clavell's son on developing 2 future seasons of Shogun. How do we feel about that?
I'm fine, again, because the original author's...
He's deceased,
yeah. So I'm fine with it. You always want to pull source material where we're prominent believers. When you get the people that did the thing to be on set with you to do the thing, Percy Jackson, Sandman, Last of Us, when you get the people that did the thing, it usually goes off well when the people are around. So maybe just make sure that, you're going to have to bank on the writers of the show adapting as well as they did to create something new. Obviously you're missing Mariko now, which is a big miss. Unless you try to get a little creative with the way that you kind of do some things. Maybe you bring her back in some flashbacks just to get her presence back on set. You got to bank on Hiroki Sanada being as great as he was. You got to bank on Cosmo Jarvis, in my opinion, starting like a quasi, I think he's going to start being in things, and then more things, and then more things. So you got to bank on those things. Those are the things you got to bet on. You got to bet on the fact that even with you doing an adaptation, that you still had to sit down and craft the screenplay or this teleplay and make sure it was as good as it is. So.
Yeah, I mean, you have lost a lot of really great characters.
Yeah, you did.
With this first season. Yeah. We talked about, obviously, you lose Mariko, you lose Yabushige, who was a big kind of, not just comedy relief, but also this kind of like window into the scoundrels, I guess, of the samurai clans. You lost Hiromatsu, you lost Toranaga's right-hand man. I'm really curious, and to the Blackthorn point, I am hesitant to the idea that a season 2 and 3 will result in like Blackthorn becoming like the main character.
Yeah, that's a little scary. That is a little bit of a scary thing because essentially, like, the way I think about it is like he was a big draw, like he was a big Western draw. I think it's like, ooh, white main character for people to follow, and then what I think happened is people started watching and they were like, oh wait, he actually doesn't, and that was the whole thing. Like the mystique of Blackthorn was really what kept him alive,
and that was Toranaga's whole point at the end.
It was like allegorical too, because it was like real life and in the show. Like in real life too, it's like, oh, he actually, like, this is not what I'm here for.
Yeah,
anymore. Like,
that was Toranaga's whole point when Yamashige was like, what happened with Blackthorn? Like, why did you keep him around? And Toranaga said, because he makes me laugh. Mm-hmm. Like, that was kind of the whole point. Like, it subverted the whole white savior thing. Like, Blackthorn was kind of just around.
Yeah.
So I don't know if a season 2 or 3 will lean into that, or it will lean into him becoming more of a point of view character. And I think if he becomes more of a point of view character, the story might suffer from it. But I have no choice but to trust it, because the first season was exceptional.
I have no reason not to. So
yeah. So I mean, I'm definitely gonna watch. Like, I'm definitely in. And we talked about Sonata last week. Like, he deserves this. He 100% deserves this moment and kind of this starring role. And like this is, it does. I will say this to counter my own point. The fact that they said leading up to this that Sonata signed on. Mm-hmm. They said Sonata signed on, and that's why we're moving forward. That makes me think that it's going to be like a Toranaga focused thing.
Yep.
That's what makes me think that, because they haven't said anything about any of the other cast members. Yeah. They said, if Sonata's doing it, we're going to go ahead and do it. So that lets me know, like, they're already kind of thinking, like, we want to present Toranaga as the main character and kind of, you know, whatever his journey is going to look like, being essentially the Shogun. Like, is he going to, you know, unify Japan under a peaceful banner? Is he going to go to war with the Portuguese? Like, I think they want Toranaga to kind of be this, not Ned Stark figure, because he doesn't operate the same way as Ned Stark, but this like Ned Stark, Tywin Lannister kind of hybrid person, where like he's the puppet master, and how does he react to being challenged? And I think that's kind of your avenue for at least a second season, is because you never really, you see him on the back foot in season 1, but also you spend a lot of time while he's on the back foot going, is he really on the back foot, or is he just puppeteering this whole thing?
And we found out he was puppeteering the whole thing.
Yeah, so I think it would be really interesting to really give him some type of legitimate challenge where he's actually
and
pushed.
That's funny, and you know, story structure wise, when you're talking about trilogies or the second movie is usually where you break the cake. You have to break this character now that you spent so much time doing your thing. Like, oh, unfortunately, now I have to beat you down to the very core of what you are. What type of villain that would have to be against, or what type of antagonist that would have to be against. I think a force as religion would be something to put him against, because it's something
they planted those seeds.
Yeah, and the thing too is, when you think about, you know, obviously, you know, the Dune comparisons are there, you know, real life, you know, surrogates are there as well too. How I think about it in my mind is, a guy like Toranaga is so much of like again, it's the wind thing, as that line was so incredible, like, you know, the guy, it's almost like you control the wind. He's like, I don't, but, you know, I just make sure I can always change my sails. Like, I always can take control of the situation. Like, it's the power of something that's like, it doesn't have like the idea of a man is gone once religion gets into the air. Like, it's just a force at this point that, like, I can't methodically move. Like, and this thing also came into my land too, that I had control over, to my own people, which I tried to use to my advantage too. But I couldn't fully control some of these people because of the religion that they have. I feel like that would be a good avenue to explore. Like, maybe the war against the Portuguese is what he'll try to do.
Yeah, I think that would be a great avenue to go. Like I said, super keen for more of this, because that first season was spectacular. And then the last bit of news before we get into X-Men stuff, Daredevil. We're down to 9 episodes.
Yeah, what a mistake.
Ah, man. R.I.P. to the running gag. 18 episodes, though?
Should have been 18. 18.
So we cut that in half.
Shot 18.
We're doing 9. Feels like a lot is going to be packed into these 9 episodes, too.
Sure, because you're going to do
The Punisher.
You're going to do the Punisher. Well, you're doing what's his name? You're doing Chip Zdarsky's run, essentially. The more I think about it, should they have called this Born Again?
No, probably not.
Yeah, because Daredevil season 3 was definitively Born Again. So,
well, they did what Marvel always does, is they're like,
that's a cool name from a comic.
Yeah, Age of Ultron.
Let's take it without any bearing on what it should actually be.
Yeah. So that's all. And it was like a meta thing. Like, he's back.
Yeah, he's back. The boy's back.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it can absolutely work as 9 episodes.
Yeah, and it gives time to breathe as well, too. I think 13 is what should have been the goal again.
Probably.
The 13, because 13 structure... 13 plays really... the best example of the 13-episode structure is Daredevil Season 1.
Yeah,
It uses the 13-episode structure incredibly well. 1 and 3. 3 also uses the 13-episode structure pretty dang well. It's funny because 2 probably had the most warranted 13 episode because the first 4 were the Punisher arc, but then it gets top heavy and all in the hand stuff as well too.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we're looking forward to it.
Yes.
I don't know what type of show this is going to be. I don't know what type of show we're about to walk into. I guess that's the only question I have. I don't know if this is going to lean more towards like how Spider-Man and She-Hulk were operating. I don't know if this is going to lean towards the Netflix shows. I don't know if this is going to lean towards more... Maybe Echo's, weirdly enough, the right tone to take for something like this.
Maybe.
So, we'll see. I mean, I'm super excited. I do think the world's going to get absolutely destroyed again, which, unfortunately, is the best way to write Daredevil, is where his world just sucks.
Yep.
So, you know what I'm really interested to see? If Elektra's going to come back.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like the one actress from this whole thing that hasn't been said to come. Everybody else is coming back. She's the only one. She died. I know.
Yeah.
We didn't see her die, technically, in Defenders. We never saw her actually die.
We don't know, for sure.
He lived through that crap, and he's blind.
Yeah.
He couldn't see those rocks coming.
It's a great point. I definitely think the 9-episode thing recontextualizes a lot of thoughts I had going into it. I think it's going to be way more focused now than it would have been. Because I think otherwise, with the 18 episodes, I think we're kind of talking about it on and off, like you were going to get your Punisher bit, you're going to get a Jessica Jones bit, you were going to get, other bits. Now I think it's going to be like a Punisher bit, and then it's going to be like just Daredevil the whole time, which is fine. He's going
to go to jail, I'm assuming.
Again?
He didn't go to jail.
Well, he didn't go to jail.
Right, he just fought his way out of jail in one of the most remarkable scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Man, what do you do?
He's going to punch with Kingpin for a bit again.
But is this whole thing just going to lead into Spider-Man 4? That's my fear on the She-Hulk side of thinking of this whole show.
Sure.
It's like, I just want to know, and I'll leave it like this. I want to know if this show is at the mercy of anything else, or if this show is going to exist on its own. That's the biggest question I have.
That's a great question. I think the original iteration was going to, but I think the re-racking of this entire show,
a complete overhaul.
Yeah,
because he wasn't going to suit up for the first 4 episodes, which just What are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. So I think the fact that they re-racked this whole thing to like essentially a Daredevil season 4 makes me think it's going to be more of a self-contained deal that will probably lead into some Spider-Man stuff, but it won't like hinge upon it. Is what I would guess. So yeah, speaking of Daredevil, X-Men.
You didn't think those two things linked?
Yeah, you wouldn't. You don't.
Give us a second.
Yeah, you might not think that's a segue, but hold on.
Give us a second.
Yeah. So before we talk about the last 3 episodes of 97, we do have to say, predictably off the back of X-Men 97, Marvel is full steam ahead developing live-action X-Men stuff, and the live-action X-Men film TBD has got apparently at least an offer to a writer. So Michael Leslie, who wrote. He wrote Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, which is quite good.
It's quite good, and it's very interesting to me because that's a story in a universe that operates in the young adult as well.
He also wrote Assassin's Creed. Ooh.
Michael Fassbender.
Macbeth? Also Michael Fassbender.
I have a weird idea. I guess it's not weird. Just, you can change everybody else. Just...
Keep Michael Fassbender as Magneto
and McAvoy. Those are the only 2 holdout. If you're not gonna get like a Mark Strong, or I still think Ralph Fiennes would be the absolute glorious Professor X. But
even if you get them both back, you don't even have to explain it.
No, because it doesn't matter. Because multiverse. That's it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
does not matter. You get the same 2 of them.
But yeah, so that and then the other thing is they seem to be pushing really hard for Ryan Coogler to direct this thing. And I would be totally cool with that because
if he brings his team from Black Panther 2 to this, we'd be in for a treat. Visually, we'd be in for a treat.
Hey man, sorry we couldn't give you Blade. Here's the X-Men.
Yeah, you should have just gave him Blade at that point.
No, give him the X-Men actually.
Oh, I mean, yeah, in a grand calculus of the multiverse speaking, I guess him getting the X-Men would be more mutually beneficial. I just think a Ryan Coogler Blade movie would be kind of cool.
We're gonna get it with that whatever that movie is he's doing with Michael B. Jordan.
Steinfeld
is gonna be his Blade movie.
Is that movie gonna snack?
Yes.
I think that movie's gonna be pretty damn good.
Unequivocally. You know how I feel about Ryan Coogler. The guy just hasn't missed so far. I think that'd be great if he directs the X-Men.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other names that I think that would work with the X-Men. 1 week we'll spend a week just talking X-Men in the MCU. We could dive into fan casting and who we want and how we want it to be structured as well, because this is really like a precipice they're about to be on with the X-Men, because as we're going to talk about in one moment with the X-Men 97. Unfortunately, now you do have a
measuring stick.
Yeah, you do have a measuring stick. And as Tony Stark once said about his father, sometimes do you want to have your stick be bigger than the other guys? And unfortunately, X-Men 97 did a great job with that too. So.
And speaking of that, so Tolerance is Extinction, the 3-episode finale, essentially, of X-Men 97, has been released in the last 3 weeks. And man, was this just everything they said it was going to be. Did not disappoint. I was not worried, but I was a little concerned that introducing Bastion this late in the game was going to be like surprise villain. But man, Theo James crushed it.
Yeah, he did. It was dead.
As Bastion.
This the best he's ever been in his career? That's hyperbolic, but he was good. He was dang good.
He brought it, man.
I felt genuine hate. Actual
especially in that 3rd episode, when they do like the X-Men thing, like we got to be better than this, and Bastion was like, nope,
I'd rather die than you guys take this planet.
So man, so much happens in these episodes. The first one, Professor X is back, and the UN was like, Professor X is back, the X-Men are a bunch of liars.
The X-Men said they're not wrong. I mean, they're not wrong.
We get with the show. We talked about this a little bit. The show does a really nice job of closing plot holes that people might ask, and they do it in like simple ways. So like the whole thing is like, why can't you just undo Genosha, right? Why can't you just undo it? And they bring some MCU-ness into this,
which I was so surprised they even did. But it was the MCU stuff that was so like sought after and unthought. Like there was no thoroughness to it in the way it was explained in Doctor Strange. There was thoroughness, but it was more like, we gotta get this plot rolling thoroughness where like this actually, like, this is how you lay it out. This is what the Infinity Saga did well. Like a thing would happen and then another thing would happen somewhere else. And you're like, oh well, that makes sense. That there's rules being set. Like there's actual rules being set here. And
so we find out that Genosha was an absolute point, a fixed point in time that you can't undo, which is why Cable could get up until the moment before the massacre, but then gets yanked back because the timeline just cannot be changed.
And the big thing that came is Beast said, it's something the mystics at Kamertage said. That,
shut up, Beast.
Yeah, shut up. You're right, but shut up, Beast. But Beast says, there's they talk about absolute points that can't be changed, and
we see a mystic of Kamertage in
Forge?
A couple episodes. Yo,
it's Forge.
No, it's not Forge. We also find out a little bit of Bastion. We find out what Bastion accomplished in the future, and Cable's like, he did it. He did it. He did the thing. He created a utopian paradise. Yeah. And they're like, great. And Cable's like, well.
Yeah, we're slaves. And he's like, ooh.
Yikes. So yeah, we find out, we basically get the Bastion backstory in this episode. He was a human machine hybrid.
Still the Man of Steel parallels keep going.
There was the Man of Steel was Man of Stealing. And we find out Bastion was just, he's a technopath is how they explain it. Right. He was in constant communication with machines, having been a machine himself.
He's basically Master Mold, Nimrod, the Sentinels. They're
superior, yeah. Well, yes.
He's like the offspring of all of them
combined. And it promotes him to creating Operation Zero Tolerance, which is essentially just enslavement of mutants, not even extermination. It escalates to extermination when he gets pushed.
Yeah.
And who's on this Operation Zero Tolerance team? All your favorites.
Yeah.
Baron Zemo's
Baron Zemo's there. You know you've done like a villain, you've done a good villainous thing when even Dr. Doom's like, yeah, I'm not in. It's kind of messed up, you don't think so?
Dr. Doom is there, and he was like,
yeah. I draw the line at enslaving a race.
I'm gonna sit this one out, actually.
I'm gonna head out. Baron Zemo said, I'm not above it.
Bastion's like, you're soft.
Yeah, so you're overrated.
Overrated. Mr. Sinister's there.
Yeah, Mr. Sinister's there. He's like, can I experiment on somebody after that? And he's like, sure. He's like, I'm in.
Yeah, that's really all Mr. That's honestly the funniest part of these last 3 episodes is Mr. Sinister doesn't really fit into Bastion's scheme. He just wants Jean Grey and Cable, and Bastion just entertains it.
Yeah. He's like, he can't help me. And he's like, can I have these pets? And he's like, sure. And he's like, I like that. I like this guy.
So we find out that Bastion has, has this guy been going to work.
Yeah.
He has
subconsciously been stealing and this is where, a lot of real world I can't wait for the people to call X-Men woke. And then they realize that it was woke all along. It was Agatha all along.
Yeah.
So basically, Bastion has been taking these he even says that like online forums, these hate groups, and he's been taking these people that are either, intolerant of mutants to want them absolutely extinct.
Or are afraid of them.
And he tells them the first part of the plan, I'm going to make you unafraid. And then he basically, all he does is basically wipes their mind, and infects them with Cable was the first version of it from Sinister, but the techno-organic virus. And it basically turns them into humanoid sentinels.
What happened with Trask
in
the last episode.
Right.
It's crazy. And when those things turn, buddy, it is horrifying.
Yeah, it is horrifying.
When you see just how many people Bastion infected, it's vast.
Right.
It's not a small amount of Sentinels.
No.
And these Sentinels descend upon the X-Mansion while the Summers go on a little excursion to Bastion's neighborhood.
In Pennsylvania. Funny.
Shout out. They find Bastion's mother, and they're like, surely.
Very horror scene.
Woof.
Written up.
Yeah, they do. Jean Grey is always a great avatar for this kind of setup, where she's like kind of like feeling the space.
Something's not right.
She's feeling the space, and then she gets upstairs to Bastion's room, and she finds some of his artwork, and it looks an awful lot like the end of the world. And she's like, "Oh my god!" And then the mom turns around, and the mom is a Sentinel.
Yeah, it's insane. She's wearing like a pink nightgown. She's like, "Do you guys want some food?" And then
to die. The food is to die for. She says.
Oh, this show's not above doing that. They should have done it.
And then not only is the mom a Sentinel, the whole dang neighborhood is Sentinels.
Cable's like, shoot.
Nah, man, this is a real Walking Dead sitch that emerges here with these neighborhood of Sentinels.
Right. So, meanwhile, while that's all going on too, Magneto's alive, obviously. So Magneto again is being, captured
in his underwear.
Yeah, in his underwear. This man's been that workout plan. That Ozempic is hit hard for Magneto. And I forgot her name.
Dr. Cooper.
Yeah, Dr. Cooper.
Yeah.
She's there, and she's just like, Bastion, why didn't you tell me about Genosha? Like, there's like evil, but like obviously I don't.
Yeah, come on.
I don't like these mutants, but like genocide, and he's like, heck yeah, genocide. He said, what do you think they're gonna do to us? We're done. We're done.
Genocide's way easier.
Yeah, he said it's one atrocity versus a whole group of them. Like I'd rather commit one and put the.
It's the Tywin Lannister argument for why he commits the Red Wedding. Why is it more noble to kill 1,000 men on a battlefield than 12 at dinner? Is what Tywin Lannister says in Game of Thrones, and Bastion presents a similar argument here. Like, one massacre is all I need to get these mutants in line. Like I did that, and look. Nobody's challenging us. Like, even the X-Men can't challenge us now. And Magneto's just sitting there, watching.
Yep.
And Cooper, like, kind of walks up to, like, a Magneto, like, she's like, look, my bad. Yeah. My bad on that.
Yeah, sorry.
And Magneto not trying to hear it.
Not speaking.
Nope. He's familiar with this game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And what they do with Magneto in this show is just... insanely incredible what they're able to do. It's heartbreaking over anything, but it's an incredible character work of like, you know what's even better about it? It's not taking a character that's already like a newer character like Roberto or something like that, it's taking a character that not only this universe knows, but we've known for years upon years, and it finally gives us the thing that I feel like live action was the only person that dipped into it truthfully was Matthew Vaughn with First Class, was the only one that successfully really dipped into that piece, because I think Ian McKellen he was already too old for me to resonate with that piece, but obviously for Fassbender I had to play into the actual movie because it was only a 20-year difference in between what happened to him as well. Yeah. This show finally does it for quote-unquote prime Magneto, but finally does it for Magneto, where it's just like, he has, not only has, you know, unfortunately, he had to be Jewish during the Holocaust. He also had to be a mutant during the Genoshan Man. He said, and again, it plays up into the whole lesson of episode 8, which we'll get to.
And the first 5 episodes do such a good job, especially episode 2. I mean, episode 2 is the standard bearer for the Magneto stuff, where you're sitting there and you're kind of in the same situation that the characters in the show are in. Like, you're inherently distrustful of him, and then episode 2 happens, and you're like,
wait, maybe I never even should have been but again, why was I never thinking, like, he's already seen this before.
And then Genosha happens.
Yeah, and again, they spent the first 4 episodes of Magneto's like, I'm giving this a chance. I'm giving this a chance because I care. I'm giving this a chance because I love Charles, and I'm giving this a chance because I'm gonna give his idea that we had in that bar so long ago one last try.
And then Genosha happened. And then, you know, the scene, the small tiny scene with Leech comes back around, you know, in this 3-part finale too. And then, you know, it's X-Men 97. It's time for a big fight.
Yeah, a couple big fights all at the same time.
Yeah, so we get the Summers crew in their escape mission.
Yep, we get Jubilee and Roberto at the mall.
Yep, great callback to Jubilee says, I'm so sick of going to the mall, or whatever she says. Callback to, we get that really kind of devastating scene with Roberto and his mom.
I'm going to save that for a second.
Yeah.
But, you know, I want to talk about the Wolverine and Nightcrawler.
Woo, buddy! You guys thought Wolverine wasn't getting enough to do in this show?
Yeah, he got it.
What I talked about, I forget which episode we talked about when I brought this up, where like, the show does a really great job of every episode making a character feel important. Obviously, episode 5 did it with Gambit. Episode 2 does it with Magneto. Episode 1 does it with Storm and Cyclops. Episode 3 does it with Jean Grey.
You know what it does? It makes them feel like this X-Men team can go toe-to-toe with anybody.
Episode 7 does it with Rogue. And Rogue, you know, gets a lot more to do in this 3-part finale. And then this episode does it with Wolverine and Nightcrawler. And it's awesome. There's no other way. We get
the Sentinels all turn on, and then it's Nightcrawler. Beast gets kind of taken out by his love interest. And then it's basically Rogue's already incapacitated from what happened with Trask in the previous episode, so it's basically Wolverine and Nightcrawler against all these Prime Sentinels. And boy, I thought I was going to want Jean Grey and like Cable. I might want Nightcrawler and Wolverine to keep me safe, because boy, were they putting up numbers. Nightcrawler gets his swords. Wolverine already has his swords.
I got 6 reasons, bub.
Oof.
No, mein friend. 9! And it's on!
It's on. They do like a one take through like the little bit of like the room as well where Nightcrawler's fighting.
We get Wolverine clawnadoing through the air in the sky.
Gets kind of, you know, rocket blasted into the sky, and he's like, I'll be back in a second. It's just face first diving, taking out Sentinels with him all the way back, crashing into the mansion.
And then
we get the coolest thing ever.
We get a first person Bamf. The first one ever.
We see Nightcrawler Wolverine skewers one of the Sentinels, and then Nightcrawler teleports them, but we see through the teleport. It's insane. I
cannot stress enough how sick that moment is, just from a conceptualization standpoint, because that had never been done before. We'd never been through a Nightcrawler teleportation before. It's always Bamf. Like, that's the thing. Bam, boom. He's in different places. The fact that group of people got together in the writer's room and were like, what if we did Nightcrawler's teleportation first person? And everyone went, huh. And then the animation team, to conceptualize that whole thing, It's crazy to me.
It's nuts.
It's so crazy. And, like, the distortion of, like, Wolverine being like, whoa!
And then, I mean, even going back to the Summers camp, too, so they're flying the jet gets destroyed, and Scott's got a Porsche. He's like, you got a Porsche, Dad? He's like, I'm the cool dad. They're driving the Porsche. Scott, again, is like, you thought I just had these I-beams that just... No. I got the coolest...
He's drifting the car with the optic blast, firing them against the wall.
I can't say enough about what they do with Jean, because my whole childhood consisted of Jean somehow being the most powerful damsel in distress I've ever seen. It's the only way I ever remember Jean Grey growing up as a kid. So for this show to actually have Jean Grey just be prime Jean Grey with no stipulations behind it, I'm so thankful for that.
Yes.
Thank you for making Jean Grey an actual character this time.
100%, dude.
So, and again, that hero moment where they all land in the summer. What's Scott say? Let's teach these toasters not to mess with the Summers family.
Yeah.
So corny.
It's so good. But then, like, the Sentinels overwhelm them. And the tide turns.
Yep, and then, again, Magneto breaks out. Well, Cooper lets him out, and then Magneto bounds her, and Magneto,
And Bastion finds her, and he's like, why'd you do that?
Yeah, why'd you... No Way Home, Andrew Garfield, why'd you do that? And then we have a little, few moments before moment with Cooper, and Cooper's explaining to Bastion. She said,
classic X-Men monologue.
It's like all the legwork Chris Claremont was doing and what he was doing. Like, it was the most God Love Man's kills I've felt out of this show. Where basically.
Also, fun fact about this character in this scene and this actor. So, the actor that voices Dr. Cooper was the original actress for Jean Grey in the original X-Men animated series, and Bo DeMaio called her up and was like, hey, we want to get you in X-Men 97, but we don't want to cast you as Jean Grey, we want to cast you as this character, Dr. Cooper, and she agreed, and Bo DeMaio said, I'm giving you this role because I want you to present what is essentially the thesis of the show in episode 8, and this is it. What her speech to Bastion is the thesis statement of the show.
It's harrowing to listen to, because Bastion's like, I knew you would probably do something this stupid because you're human, which comes back to play because you think Bastion just hates humans, but it's not that simple, or hates mutants, but it's not that simple. So basically, how this goes, to surmise everything, is she goes, I had this weird deja vu when Genosha happened. This weird deja vu came over me. You know what I thought about this whole time? And especially because it was Magneto, that Magneto was right about this whole thing. He was right.
She says, I wasn't, when Genosha happened, I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised. And again, that's supposed to be the surrogate for, the school shootings that keep happening, violence that keeps happening in the world. It's supposed to be a mirror to it. Mm-hmm. And again, she said, she goes, yes, I was scared, but I had the most profound sense of deja vu. And then it immediately cuts to his Holocaust tattoo on his arm. Like, humans will keep doing this again and again and again and again. There will be no stop to this. As much, and then you know what it does really well? It cuts to that's the scene with Roberto and Jubilee where this is his own mother, and she said, you know what? These random people can take you out of here, unfortunately, because as much as you're my son, you're still a mutant at the end of the day as well.
Well, because, and it's really, this is also kind of analogous to the police brutality thing in a sense, where Roberto and Jubilee are being chased by these Sentinels, and then they get to the party, and the Sentinels are like, we're here to help mutants. Yep. And Roberto's mom's like, yeah, they're here to help you, Roberto, like, go with them. And like, essentially sends her son up the river, essentially, and it's heartbreaking, and like you said, Cooper's giving this monologue, and it's and then Magneto, like you said,
Magneto has one line of dialogue this whole episode, and it's enough, and he turns off the power on the entire planet,
a planetary EMP. That paves the way for some cameos.
Yeah. So who do we get? We get
Silver Samurai.
Silver Samurai. I love Silver Samurai's cameos because he gets two, and he's just sitting in Japan. He's sitting on a high rise in Japan. He just has his arms crossed, like,
we get a conspicuous nuclear power plant that scientists are like, oh my god, Omega Red.
Omega Red, don't come out of the cage, Omega Red. I'm coming out of the cage. Don't do it, Omega Red. I'm getting out of this cage. And then we get Spider-Man. Flipping around.
He flips around. He's like, huh.
Oh no, the power.
He does one of those, like, huh.
The power that I love so much. How am I going to run my computers?
The grid. Electro! Electro must be behind this.
That should have been my first call. I'm not going to lie, that's my first call. I'm calling Electro first. Power goes off, I'm calling Electro.
There I was. Sitting in the grid.
Oh my god. It should have been Jamie Foxx too.
The hell? So that was fun. I love how the show handles their cameos.
Yeah. They're not cameos to be stupid, or they're not cameos to get shock factor. It's cameos to be like, this world is big. This world is huge.
Yeah, and Magneto.
I love Silver Sand. He's just
and Magneto's messing it up.
Yeah. Enough hit like a truck.
Yeah, it's great because we haven't seen Magneto proper since episode 5.
And he said in episode 2, he said, you don't understand what I can do to you, but again, that's why I said it the way I'm giving you guys one last chance. It's a great callback to the episode 2.
Yep,
I'm giving you one last
chance.
Please
do not make me let you down.
Yep, and guess what?
They did.
Deja vu again.
They made him.
Yep. And then
he shuts down all the Sentinels.
Yep. Unfortunately, Professor X comes back.
Hilarious. X. Wolverine goes, if only the professor were here. And then a comet flies across the sky. And they open. Wolverine's like, and then Professor X is like, I hope I'm not too late. You are. Yeah, you are, Charles.
You're way too late.
You're way too late, Charles. Which we go right into episode 2 of this 3-parter, and Professor X is like, I'm back. Yeah. And everyone's like,
shut up.
We don't like this.
We don't like you anymore. Magneto was kind of hitting as a leader, I'm not going to lie.
He was getting things done. Magneto's like, what if I brought Asteroid M back?
Yeah.
He pulls it out of the ocean. It's sick. Sick sequence here. Magneto's like, that's it. I'm done with this.
I love how, in the middle piece of your story, I love how, like, Professor X gets out of the bed, rolls over to his wheelchair, and he's like, everybody why is the mansion destroyed, guys? I thought everything was good.
He's also, like, he doesn't so much say it, but he's also, like, kind of, like, wheeling around, and he's like, the vibes are off.
Yeah, at least the vibes are not immaculate right now.
Do you not mess with me anymore, guys? And Cyclops is like...
Never did. Never did.
Cyclops is like, I'm on the fence right now, actually.
About you. Now, yeah, listen, at first I was like, I love how they approach it too, and it's important that it's Scott and Jean, because again, like he says, you were my first students, and he's just like...
I didn't want this life for you.
Yeah, and Scott's like, I'm about this life, though. What are you talking about?
I've been about this life.
You know the way I was skating around with my Octave Blast?
Storm shows back up.
Yeah.
She rescues Jubilee and I would say her and Forge rescue Jubilee and Roberto, but
I love how much I love how much you hate Forge.
I don't hate him. It's not that I hate him.
He's just a herb.
He does exhibit herb-like behavior. I just don't know what he's doing. He didn't even get Storm her powers back like he said he was going to.
Yeah.
She did it herself.
Yeah.
By confronting a demon.
Right.
What are you doing, Forge?
I don't know. Forge also must have the greatest Riz ever, because Forge somehow went to the goddess Storm, said, we never met, but I'm in love with you, and she said,
I'm also in love
with you?
So Forge and Storm rescue Jubilee and Roberto, I guess. They go back to the mansion, and Storm was like, what in the world?
But the tensions are rising on the streets in the world, and unfortunately because
Magneto blacked out the entire planet.
Yeah, so thousands of people are dying, and because of the shift in the polarity of the planet's gonna unfortunately die. So he's like, "You see that asteroid up there? We can live up there. Mutants only."
But then he brings the asteroid to the X-Mansion.
No, which was crazy. He didn't mess with anything.
Charles is like, get that asteroid out of my...
Get that jelly one out of here.
Get that asteroid off my lawn, Magneto. Magneto, he's back. He's got the get-up, the helmet, the cape, the red suit. He's like, last chance, X-Men.
Yeah.
To me, my X-Men, Magneto says.
And Charles like, no, it's not your X-Men, it was my X-Men.
They're my X-Men first.
It was my X-Men first, God.
Magneto was like, you weren't here when I had the sleeveless get-up on, Charles.
Yeah, I was dripped out. I had never seen you have drip like this.
We'll see Charles's drip later. It's not great.
It isn't.
His Che Guevara-esque outfit that he goes with.
Are you the Che Guevara of Westchester?
So Magneto's like, look, Remember the time I said this was going to happen?
Right.
And then it happened? What did Charles do?
Nothing.
He left.
Yeah, he went to go be with his bird queen.
And
they called the planet the ghetto. I'm never going to forgive, what's her name?
Deathbird?
Yeah, Deathbird for saying that. Shut up, Deathbird.
So Rogue has seen enough.
Yeah. Rogue's like, I'm going to go be with my man.
I'm going to go be... But man, she delivers some all-timers here. When she's like...
She cooked Professor X. That was crazy. She said, what'd she say about Jean? She said, who's next, Jean? Been there, done that. I said, whoa. What's your problem?
Magneto also has a bar in this exchange when he's like, how many more of your bones does Charles's dream need to litter the street with before you realize that he ain't him?
He ain't him? What do you mean? I got my own asteroid?
And then he drops that line about Leech, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
He was right. Magneto was right.
Professor X is gagged in this situation.
Roberto goes?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about Roberto.
I mean, Roberto, but...
Yeah. Yep.
What I like about the show, especially in this moment when Rogue and Roberto turn, is it makes sense. Like, those turns don't come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'll even dip further, and it's because he's wearing the X-Men suit, too. So, he's the least to be sold on this whole idea of the X-Men, and a big piece of this is because, I mean, his girlfriend's there, too. His girlfriend's there, and to Magneto's point, he's like, I haven't steered you guys wrong yet. Like, while you were a part of this whole mission that we've been on, I have not steered you wrong. I've been right about everything. And this man that you've never known, all these people grew up with them. You didn't grow up with them. You grew up with me as an X-Man. And also, your mother just gave you over to these people. Your mother, I've seen it time and time again. You can come with me and not have to deal with that.
And I'm sitting there like, this guy's making some point. He's not wrong right now. He's not wrong. And the only leg Professor X has to sit on is the fact that he's like,
you've been a villain since 92. That's it.
That's really all he has. He's like, but Magneto, but Magnus, the planet. And Magneto's like,
what about this planet? Well, how many times do we have to beat through this where, and you know who does this well? Hickman does this well in his X-Men run from 2019, where he's like, how many times do we have to keep saving these people that will never be grateful for what we do? How many times do we have to do it? It reminds me of, like, black soldiers after World War II, after any war, Vietnam specifically, where each time they came back, they had to come back to every single time. How many times do we have to keep saving these people for what? What reason do I have to save somebody that'll come back and hate me?
And then again, it harkens back to the episode 2 monologue where Magneto says, I'm not asking you to make us equals. I'm not even asking for that. I'm just asking for us to recognize that we share the same planet.
Right.
Like, that's all I'm asking. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't give him that much. So Magneto was right a little bit. And
then it dips into some just juicy X-Menning of the X-Men, if that makes sense. Like, I love the scene where they're all in the room, and it's that very penultimate episode feel of the team's finally back. We got everybody from wherever they were. Let's come up with the plan. Let's contextualize what's going to happen in the finale.
Blue team and gold team.
Blue team and gold. You're blue team and gold team from X-Men comics, aren't you?
You're also Muir Island from X-Men.
You're Muir Island from X-Men.
We're doing a lot of that this episode because
it's great.
Because they get there to Muir Island and they're like, those outfits. And they're just like, let's regroup at Muir Island, and then somebody should have been like, these are our classic outfits, and then somebody should have winked and walked away. You're the classic costumes from X-Men comics. They gave Cyclops the weird condom looking costume. Mm-hmm. It's fine.
They made Jean Grey. They put Jean Grey back 50 years, unfortunately.
In the Marvel Girl costume. Yeah. I didn't love it.
Me neither. Maybe just give her pants.
Yeah, give her pants. Wolverine gets the brown and yellow outfit.
Good stuff. Even we got to talk about the Cable one, because Cable gets his suit from New X-Men, and Cyclops is like, what did you expect? Black leather.
Boom! Take that, Bryan Singer. Sure. You asshole. So yeah, we're doing a plan. So we got one team, we got Gold Team with Jean, Storm, Forge, Beast, and Morph.
And
Cable. Yes. I do like the scene where Forge and Beast are building the thing, and they're like, this collar will inhibit his powers, and Storm's like, absolutely not.
Just flares up a little bit, of lightning strike hits, like, maybe it will just dampen him. How about that?
So they build a big headdress that they're going to slap on Bastion.
The Flash season 4.
Kinda. It is kind of that they're going to slap on Bastion that'll sever his connection to the Sentinels, because that's all that's keeping the Sentinels going.
That should be easy.
Is Bastion's power, essentially, which shows you how powerful he is. Yeah. That he's keeping these Sentinels intact despite a planetary EMP.
Right.
And then Blue Team is going to go talk to Magneto.
Right. They're just going to have a chat.
Professor X in his Che Guevara outfit. And he got the yellow floaty wheelchair back. Wolverine, we're bringing the Metal Bones guy to fight the guy who can bend metal. Can't see how this is going to go awry.
Not a great plan.
Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Jubilee. Who you're like, why is Jubilee going?
You'll find out. Yep.
You'll find out. So they're going to go They're going to go talk to Magneto. So we get Gold Team goes there. Mr. Sinister's there. Yeah. He's like, I'm the mini boss before the final boss.
I love his voice. His voice is going to get much funnier in the beginning of the next episode. But he is the mini boss before the final boss. He's like Terran Malikos before you fight, what's her name?
Yeah.
In Fallen Order.
The first sister? Right. Or the second sister? Yeah, so the mini boss fight with Mr. Sinister. Jean Grey versus Mr. Sinister.
I just thank this show. Thank you for not just making Jean Grey just a stupid somebody.
No, she stands on business.
Stands on business is an understatement.
Before we stand on business, though, we get the scene with Jean and Storm in the Blackbird, which is cinema. Just the writing. Man, when Storm is like, you're her, actually.
Yeah, and then Storm's like, wait, you're her. And they're like, are we both her?
Make them weather your mind, sister.
No, make them mind your weather, sister, and make them weather your mind. And I'm like,
I felt that here. They were my sisters in that moment. Yeah, yep. We're all sisters.
Sister.
We were all sisters in that moment.
Some idiot let Forge fly.
Yahoo!
Shut up, Forge. This is a serious situation. The planet's about to end and you're yelling Yahoo at a time. Very Jason Momoa-esque of him. What are you doing, Forge? Maybe Jason Momoa should play Forge.
No shot. There were some Billy D. Williams-isms in Forge in the scene.
Yeah, where he's like the second pilot that comes in.
Yeah. So Storm and Forge are combating things in the air. Beast and Morph and Jean and Cable go down to the ground.
That X-Men moment where the music starts playing and then Morph turns into Hulk. You're Hulk from Marvel Comics.
Morph continues to be the cameo character of the show in the best way. Mm-hmm. We're smashing Sentinels again.
Yep. Man, the POV shot of the punch midair I was like, what are they cooking?
Storm is zapping Sentinels left and right.
Yep.
Forge is there.
He's flying the plane.
He's flying the plane for who? For who?
Back at Asteroid M. Back at the Cool Kids table.
They teleport right to I do like that they subverted we're gonna fight through Asteroid M to get to Magneto. No, Nightcrawler just teleports them to the throne room.
Right.
Magneto's sitting on a Sentinel.
He's like, pretty sick, right? Not bad.
X-Men. He basically says last chance. X-Men.
Yeah. See, the last time I did a last chance, the planet's turned off. So what do you guys want to do?
The planet's turned off. And Charles is
no more Netflix. It's over. Cable television, washing machines cooked.
And Charles is like, you can't turn the planet off forever, Magnus.
And he's like, can't I? Not? We got power up here, right? Asteroid M looking pretty good right now, right?
And then they're like, well, and then Charles straight up says it. He's like, if you're not going to do this, then you left me no choice. I have to hijack your mind. Mm-hmm. And Magneto's like, you would do that to me? You gonna do this to me?
You gonna do this to me? After everything I did for your legacy, you gonna do this to me? Oh, man. And, Professor X hits him with that line, you look at you about to rule the planet when the planet actually rules you, and then, Magneto goes, these are 2 words I've been waiting to say for you for years. Shut up.
And everyone cheered.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you shut up, Professor X, nerd.
And then Wolverine's like, all right, game, it's on.
Yeah, listen.
So Wolverine goes straight for Magneto.
Yep.
Rogue's like, whoa.
You're playing to kill, Shogun. Not on my watch.
Wolverine's like, yeah.
Sunspot hits Jubilee, and he's like, sorry, babe, my bad.
Nightcrawler's bamfing about.
Yeah.
Cyclops is there.
Dude, putting in work. It really shows you how powerful Cyclops actually is.
Yeah, and then we go back down to Gold Team. What's going on, Gold Team? Gold leader.
Cable's like, unfortunately, I am controlled by Mr. Sinister. You think the guy that made me wasn't going to control me? Come on.
Yeah, you would think Jean pretty much has Sinister dead to rights.
And, I mean, you know, character work-wise, this whole thing is the relationship between Jean and Cable because they don't have a relationship. This is just this woman that unfortunately looks like my mother that I hate.
And then Jean is like I said, she's got Sinister dead to rights, and Sinister's like, aha. But did you know I also have another mind-controlled person? And she turns, and it's Cable, and Cable shoots her, and she's like, Cable, don't do this. And he's like, the thing about being the kid of a world-class telepath is these things tend not to skip generations. New power unlocked.
Power unlocked. He's got the same power. He's got the telekinesis. You're the telekinesis from Marvel Comics. Not bad.
He overpowers Jean. Jean calls out to Scott, and she's like, Scott, I'm gonna die. Mm-hmm. And Scott's like, Jean! And she gets obliterated, presumably, by Cable.
You know who Cyclops is? He's Finn from Star Wars.
Yes. So Jean gets obliterated. Sinister shows back up in front of Bastion, and he's like, Bastion, we can't hold the thing.
You can't hold the line, Bastion.
And Bastion's like, get lost, Morph.
Yeah. You're probably Morph from Marvel Comics, aren't you? There's no way you're not. He said that Snake Sinister would never care about another person.
He would never come back to report. He would just run.
Yeah. You think he's giving me status reports? No, he's just doing experiments in my basement.
He's just a freaky little weirdo.
He is a freaky little guy. That's all. That's like the Sinister.
And then Beast rocks up. He's like, I got the collar thing.
Yeah.
And Bastion's like, get lost, Beast.
Yeah, shut up, nerd. That's what he should have said. Shut up, nerd.
So he ties Beast up. Mm-hmm. He's like, you thought this crown was going to do anything to me? Nah, man. I'm him.
And back up at Asteroid M, the jaw drop moment of this whole episode. Blue team's in space, right?
Yeah.
Blue team's up there. They're putting in work. They finally get Magneto dead to rights.
Well, Wolverine puts up a 25 and 20 in this fight sequence.
That's putting up 25 and 20 when you average 10 and 6.
Yeah. He knocks Magneto's helmet off.
Magneto.
Spatial awareness, my guy.
Wait, I just want to see him in the back for a second. You know his bones are made out of metal, right?
So he knocks Magneto's helmet off. Charles is like, all right, that's it.
Yeah.
Mind crush.
Mind bomb. Boom. You looking for this?
Magneto's eyes go blue. Like, Charles is like, you're done. You're cooked.
And then Scott puts a Superman pose on. He's like, this is morally wrong, sir. And Charles is like, I don't care if it's morally wrong.
He says Gold Team needs more time, is what he says.
Shut up, Scott. Your girl's down there. Idiot.
Yeah. So he says, Gold Team, I'm sorry, sir, but Gold Team needs more time. He really walloped Professor X with that optic blast,
he really did. He blew up his chair. I'm like, dog.
Knocked him like across the room.
Yeah.
Jesus, Scott.
Yeah, that was messed up by him.
And then Magneto's like, all right, the helmet's back on.
Yeah,
well, he puts the helmet on Charles.
Yeah. We'll get there.
And then he's like, all right.
Onslaught on top of his head.
And he's like, all right, time to pack these X-Men up.
He said, about time. I've been waiting 5 years for this. Just doing a little stretching.
And then, shink.
Buddy, this turned into like an anime when that happened too.
Yeah, everyone. Ugh.
Yeah, I was watching YouTube reactions. It was in show, out of show. Everybody's like, "Oh, I know that ain't who I think it is."
Big split screen gasps.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then this is where you let Logan breathe as a character, because again, he says it right here. He's like, "I've been in a lot of wars. Like I've also been through this before too."
Been in a lot of wars, bub. The brave always die first. And Magneto's like, I couldn't agree more, actually.
I couldn't agree more. And then you know what's happening. As soon as Magneto pins him to the wall, you know what's happening. You're just like, he surely isn't going to do it, right?
Well, Magneto's like, I've been waiting.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I've been waiting.
He's like, Logan, it's time for this to end. This, whatever this is. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you think we're rivals.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
I've been allowing you to live this whole time.
Pretty much.
Let's not mince words.
I don't know why you think this is like a 1A, 1B situation, Logan, but it's not.
They all feel it coming, and then Professor X is like, for the love of God, don't do it. Do not do it.
He does it.
And then he does it. That lasts, and it's the music of, like, that operatic music starts playing, and I'm like, this is cinema. This is it. This is the cinema they be talking about. Episode 10.
Longer episode.
Yeah. 39 minutes?
Yeah, you get a long one. So, Wolverine gets annihilated, and then Professor X is like, that's it.
That's it.
He snaps, and he fucking he gets in that mind. he gets in there, and
he did the most evil thing that you can do. make me live my old memories. What a jerk.
Yeah. But he breaks Magneto.
Yep.
And he
severs his mind. So essentially what happens is they both... The episode's such a genius way. It's so simple and subtle, but it's so effective. It's basically the two of them. I love how, like, the windows are very bright, so it feels like afterlife-ish.
Yeah.
So, you know... It's also an incredible surrogate for coming out as well, too, the way they structure it, because it's like, they're both in this bar, and they're both just like, you know, what if I was a mutant? And Magneto, without hesitation, says, you should run, you should run if you are.
Yeah.
Like, this planet will not treat you the way you think this vision of your show, they're not going to treat you the way that you think they're going to treat you. And then Professor X, you know, comes out to him, he says, I am a mutant. And then, you know, Magneto's like, I am also a mutant. He said, I control minds. He's like, I control metal. We should team up.
And Magneto's like minds are inherently more difficult to break than metal, in my experience.
Yep.
And you know, and then the shoe drops, and Magneto's like, Charles, classic Charles. Thought you could trap me in a mind prison, Charles? Is that what you thought, Charles?
Yeah. But also, who are you?
Yeah. Charles is like, yes, actually, I can trap you in a mind prison. Zaps Magneto, breaks his mind.
But the power's back on.
The power's back on, but Professor X and Magneto
Silver Samurai's still on the same dang roof. He's like... Wait, you know what I just thought about? What if his whole suit is, like, made out of, like, it's like a, you know... What if his suit is, like, you know, powered, like, it's powered? So he was just stuck there this whole time while this was going... He was stuck there for, like, a day and a half. He was just like...
Yeah, the power turns back on.
Cameo City.
Cameo City happens.
So we get Silver Samurai on the same roof. He's like, thank God I can move my arms again. And then you get Captain America and Iron Man are with President Kelly. Scumbag President Kelly?
Yes. Which we find out later.
Yeah. Daredevil's there.
Stopping
Our thing came
looters.
back around.
He's stopping looters.
He's all the good stuff. You got Doctor Strange
doing a surgery
with his powers. He's like, well, now I don't have to do the surgery. No, imagine he didn't finish. He just left. He's like, now I have to go do superhero things.
Magneto and Professor X are out of commission. We'll revisit them in a little bit. Meanwhile, back on the ranch, the Phoenix does the Phoenixing.
Yeah. Well, before that, Bastion kind of delivers the whole plan of Operation Zero Tolerance. So again, like you said, they unfortunately pushed him a little too far. So he's like, you didn't think Operation Zero Tolerance just meant mutants, right? It also meant humans too. Like, unfortunately, I'm ending this world because this place kind of sucks.
So he reboots all the Sentinels. Cameo City. Daredevil gets knocked into a storefront.
Yeah.
But he's rescued by
Cloak and Dagger.
That was sick.
You know what I did after that? I actually watched the episode of Runaways that had Cloak and Dagger.
Just bring them back.
Yeah, the two of them would be good back together.
And they're like age appropriate now,
Yeah,
where you can make them like an adult Cloak. I think they're both like 26 or 27 now. The two actors. That'd be cool.
You don't use those freaking Marvel one-shots to your advantage. You don't need to do a full season. One shot, 1 hour.
Yeah, so now Bastion's like, Iron Man and Captain America are like, whoa.
Yeah.
The Sentinels break into the White House and Iron Man,
They did what?
They break into the White House? Where's Gerard Butler?
Where's Channing Tatum? Imagine they teamed up.
I love
Which one's better, White House Down or Olympus Has Fallen?
Olympus Has Fallen, I think, is better.
But White House Down is funnier.
White House Down is funnier. What the hell?
Get your hands off my Jordans. He was the black president, you had to say that? Anyway.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
We need to start a dialogue.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
I don't know.
He's in a metal suit. Fight the Sentinels, Iron Man.
He could have, but he's just chummed up with the president. No, this is the most accurate Iron Man we've seen because he's all a little bit of a scumbag.
He's like, duh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm metal. They're metal.
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen here.
Bastion, he's an issue.
I don't know.
Cool.
Daredevil gets knocked into a storefront. It looks like it's curtains for the good guys, and then Bastion shouldn't have been in front of that leg. Bastion shouldn't have been in front of it because Jean Grey comes back and she's like, "That's it, Phoenix Force activated." She grabs Bastion, puts the little thingy on his head, and she's like, "That's it. You're all washed up." She says to him.
She gets Sinister, and she basically strips all the DNA that he had used.
Wild.
And then he ages like a million years.
She's like, "The power of the Phoenix enables me to burn away all of, like, your your evilness, essentially.
And then he looks like the oldest version of Ben Kingsley you'll find. And then Morph transforms to him. He's just like, he said, tell me how I look. And then he's just like, look about the same to me. He's like, and that's basically how he ends. It's the best thing ever.
Sinister waddles away.
He's just gone. It's incredible.
Oh no.
Oh no, bro.
Jean's like, actually.
Yeah, I'm not the Phoenix anymore.
Temporary Phoenix powers.
I'm now.
I didn't love. This is just how my brain. I didn't love her being like, my love for my son enabled the Phoenix Force to return.
No.
For like 5 seconds.
No, it doesn't work like that. And then Bastion's just like, oh wait, I'm stupid powerful actually. Even with the dang collar on, it doesn't work. He rips Cable's arm out of his body.
And then absorbs it.
And then uses it to beat the crap out of him too.
And then he absorbs it.
Yeah, and then he does absorb it. That was like the last piece he needed to become God.
He turned into a Final Fantasy villain.
That was crazy. That was nuts. Takes his arm, gets wings.
Yeah.
Nice.
He gets a new suit.
It's pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie.
It's a good look. It's a good look for him. And then he's like, here's what I'm gonna do, actually. I'm gonna crash Asteroid M into the Earth.
Yeah,
everybody wins.
Everybody's dead. The Sentinels are just like, we win.
It's great. And then that man, the pesky government.
Yeah. You're talking to the president of the government.
Well, the president of the government rocks up.
Yeah, Kelly's just like, Kelly gets a very like 24-esque way of doing it. Kelly gets like we have the Magneto protocols.
Not the Magneto protocols.
I know Captain America's like, we gotta do the right thing. And Iron Man's like, push it. Do it.
He's on Zoom with Prince T'Chaka.
Right.
Or King T'Chaka.
Yeah, King T'Chaka's like, we don't do that here.
You cannot do this.
Please don't. He said he gives a bar too. He's just like, if you do this, something about like the textbooks of like that they read in the future. We'll talk about this day. Like, you're not gonna learn. Like, you guys are not learning from what you've done.
Yeah, do you really think like Magneto's gonna be cool with this? And then Captain America also is like, I don't know about this, sir. And Iron Man's like,
I don't care either way.
I'm still rich.
At
the end of the day. So Charles and Magneto are inside Magneto's mind, and this is where you realize Magneto got broken.
Yeah. Yep.
Like he's lost his identity, essentially.
Bastion pulls up, and Rogue's the fool. Rogue gets another moment in this show where she's just like, wait, I'm her.
Well, Bastion shows up and just kind of
takes the anti-gravity core and just...
He walks through the X-Men.
The plot to Sky High?
He walks through the X-Men, essentially.
He dog walks them, and then Rogue pulls up and is just like...
Off screen.
Yeah. Rogue's like,
his name was Gambit. Remember it. Boom! Good stuff. I really enjoyed this. And she pummels Bastion into, like, dust.
Mm-hmm. And then weirdly, something that the world would never do, they tell us about the Doomsday when it's happening. That would never happen. They just let it happen. That would never ever happen. They're like, unfortunately, the Astro... You know why I think they did it? Because if they survived, they'd be like, the mutants still stink because they killed us all, even though the government did it. Anyway.
So Rogue starts beating Bastion senseless, and then Bastion's like, wait a second, hold on.
I'm him. He heals himself, and then that's when you're like... This show does what any good story about like dealing in this genre does.
Yeah,
where you're like, I genuinely feel like how do you beat this?
He's got Rogue in that moment. And you're like, is he gonna
kill Rogue? Like
he might. This show is relentless.
And I thought the same thing for when Nightcrawler was banting around everywhere. I'm like, he's gonna skewer Nightcrawler in one of these too.
Yeah, because I watched X-Men Origins.
Yeah, yep.
I watched what happened to Wraith.
Yep.
You know the thing about you, Johnny? You're predictable. Ooh, I can feel your spine, Johnny. Leave Shriver, ladies and gentlemen.
He's gotta be in Deadpool 3, right?
Yes. I can feel your spine, Johnny.
Where did that come from? Where did that come from?
Yeah. And then Sunspot shows up.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait.
Name's Sunspot, mon ami. Name's Sunspot, mi amor. Remember it.
Yeah, Sunspot, you mixed up your languages there, partner.
My bad on that.
He should have said name Sunspot Mon Ami.
Even more. That would have been
he should have said Mon Ami. That would have been funnier. But yeah, he's full Sunspot. He's like, wait, I'm him, actually. I'm powered by the sun.
Yep.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hands.
And then the gold team pulls up in a Sentinel, because Beast loves driving Sentinels. Why does this happen every time we review something? We start out serious, and then it just gets funnier as it goes on. And then he never pilots it correctly in the last piece. So they got Bastion dead to rights. Why does he have his glasses on?
What did he say in the first episode? I do think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Shut up, nerd.
I think you're going through a change of heart.
Shut up, nerd.
So, my stars and garters.
oh dear.
Oh dear.
But then, X-Men are all back together. They're all on Asteroid M.
Bastion's like, I'm being crushed by a Sentinel.
And then Storm and Cyclops, two definitive, two people that can very much lead the X-Men, are like, we gotta do this. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Looks at Professor X.
Oh, Jubilee also cuts Bastion's wings off?
Yeah. Oh, so that's the point we were talking about. Jubilee, and this is a thing from the comics, where Jubilee's just like, we are still, Jubilee's whole thing is, it's not fireworks, but we have to talk about that line that Bastion gives her, because I was cracking up. But the
4th of July line?
Yeah. He said, what are you going to kill me with the 4th of July?
Actually.
Actually. Haven't heard that one before. But basically, Jubilee's whole thing, it's not, she gives off fireworks. It's like otherworldly matter.
She's manipulating matter.
Right. And
making it explode.
Right. And which is a nuts power to have.
And it's a trick that she learned from her future counterpart in episode 4.
Yep. With
the buzzsaws.
Yep.
The buzzsaw fireworks. She cuts Bastion's wings off, and that's when Beast shows up, and he's like, "Oh, hello." Pun.
And basically, they give Bastion the choice, because it goes back to that line Storm had in the previous episode. She was like, if this was a different reality, like, Bastion would have been with the original, she would have been with you, like Scott Beast and
like
Jean.
Charles tried to come to you.
Yep, and his mother said, "No shot, weirdo."
My son's a freak.
Yeah,
and he's gonna stay that way forever. And then Bastion's like, you would even now, like, you would offer me a chance at to be with humanity, and he's like, but here's the thing, humanity does not want us.
Yeah.
It's very Magneto-esque here, this dialogue that Bastion gives. He's like, and you know how I'm gonna prove that? Look out the window.
Yeah.
Here come the missiles.
Are you the Magneto Protocols?
Yeah. The government.
Bastion turns into Mr. Fantastic. You're Mr. Fantastic from the Marvel comics.
He, Morph turns into Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Not Bastion.
That would have been funnier.
Bastion turned into Mr. Fantastic, and Morph is like, what?
This guy took my whole flow.
Yeah.
They do the Age of Ultron scene, the asteroid gets flipped, and it's going down to Earth, and they're like, ah, crap.
Yeah, the government...
And Beast does some nerding. Beast is just like, if we all use our powers in perfect sync, we might have a 1 point... Shut up, nerd, what do we do?
But to be fair, that is how you think it's gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
But, it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Bastion dies?
No.
He flies into the sun?
Yeah. Shout out Icarus.
He at least flies into an explosion.
Right. We don't know if he's alive or not. I think that's the thing, and that's one of the pieces.
I mean, he's pretty hard to kill.
Yeah, and that's one of the pieces that makes the X-Men so dynamic as well too. Is their villains are such villains that they always stick around. They're the villains you can't kill these guys.
Oh, we'll go there.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it.
We'll go there. Oh my god, the scene with Scott, Jean, and Cable.
Oh my!
In the diner.
Not the diner scene.
The diner scene. Buddy, this is the acting that they talk about. The hashtag acting award gets superseded for this.
Yeah, Cable's rehabbing from his arm being ripped off.
Yeah, so basically, Jean, teleports her mind into the situation, her and Scott, Scott's whole thing is just like, I'm going to do what my father never did, and I'm going to say goodbye. We're going to go save the planet.
But it's probably going to kill us.
Yeah, it's probably going to kill us, but... A, you're going to see me, and you're going to see my eyes. Those brown eyes I know all too well. So
and Jean uses her powers to suppress Scott's optic blasts. she again, callback to episode 5, when they're doing that kind of TV interview, and they're both Jean's explaining to Wolverine, and Scott's explaining to the TV reporter how Scott brought Jean back from the Phoenix Force, and she says she used her telepathy to suppress his optic blast so that she could look into his eyes and see his eyes for the first time. So we bring that back here with this scene with Cable.
Yep.
And I love that.
I love you, son. And then, Nathan's, his whole thing is basically hey, I tried my best to, I wanted to be a part of those stories with the X-Men. I wish you never would have sent me to the future. And he said, this was the only way to, I would not have ever had a time where I wouldn't have gotten the chance to try to save you, and that's the only way we thought we could. So let's hash this out now, And, you know, also what it does is, like, I don't care if I'm Jean or Madeline, I'm still your mother, and I still love you, too. And then transitions right into the one last Cyclops is in moment.
And Cable also is like, my parents are pretty great.
Yeah, my parents are kind of cool. And then Cyclops transitions in. He rips his mask off with tears coming out and just lets out the most powerful optic blast he could.
Great scream out of Ray Chase from this scene. Just visceral, just...
I hope we get a moment like that in the MCU. Like, I'm talking just the full-out... like, man, these X-Men characters are...
Just pure raw emotion out of Cyclops here as he uses optic blast to essentially power the asteroid, like, through the vents, while Rogue and Storm on the outside kind of giving a... Morph is with Wolverine.
Yeah, and there's something that they said Morph's in love with Wolverine, basically. And Morph turns into Jean to tell... the nice thing to do for Wolverine as Wolverine is trying to recover. And it's Scott goes to Wolverine before he's like, I need you to do the one thing you've always known how to do is heal. I need you to heal.
For her, he says.
For her, yep. And then Morph is, Morph basically like turns into Jean and says like, stay with me, Logan, like I love you. And this is it. This is the last piece. And then Magneto is, drowning in the waters. And then basically, Charles saves him one last time.
One last cameo.
Yep.
Sets of cameos.
Yep.
Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Polaris, and Rogue,
yep.
are on the boat, which is basically representative of like the people that Magneto cares for. But they're drifting away, in his darkness. And then Magneto... is like, I can't do it, Charles. I don't know. Or he doesn't even call him Charles in that moment. He's like, I can't do it. Like, it's too overwhelming. And Professor X is like, we can do this, like, together. Remember Simba. Remember who you are. And Magneto's like, you're Charles Xavier. Like, your dream is this, that. Like, we made a promise to uphold this dream. And he's like, remember who you are, Simba. And he's like, your name is Magnus Eric
Magnus
Lyncher, but you went by another name. What is that name? Why did you say that name? And then Magneto opens his eyes, and Magneto lives
and lifts the asteroid back into orbit. I was like, was this actually the Magneto protocol? You knock him out and then he does it himself.
And then they're like, Jubilee and Roberto on the ground, like, yay, the X-Men. And then the asteroid vanishes.
And they're like,
uh-oh.
Where'd the asteroid go? Ford's like, where's my girlfriend?
And then we fast forward, was it 3 months?
6 months.
6 months. The X-Men are gone. Mm-hmm. What happened to the X-Men? We don't know.
We don't know.
Forge is down. We don't know for sure.
Forge is down there trying to build a new... One would say he's trying to build the new X-Men.
There's apparently like a Magneto cult running around. The Magneto truthers are out there. We hear on the radio that people think that there's a second coming of Magneto happening, and people are like, did Magneto really save us? Or what happened there? Nobody really knows. And Forge is down. He's got a one of those conspiracy boards.
It's a conspiracy board. It's also a callback to Days of Future Past.
Yeah. And all these X-Men are gone. We see some new X-Men on there.
And we see some old X-Men too. I mean, we see Colossus on there. We see Iceman,
Scarlet Witch,
Quicksilver, who are both off-world, which is weird.
Interesting.
You see Exodus, like you see Dust, like you see Emma
Kitty
Frost,
Pride. I think it's Shadowcat.
Shadowcat. You see in like the classic 70s Shadowcat or 80s Shadowcat.
And Forge is just like, it's useless.
Yeah.
I'm useless. Yeah. All the good mutants are gone.
What do you mean by that? And then Forge, and then Bishop shows up. That's worse. You even said that.
Bishop is like, name's Bishop, mon ami.
Remember it. Forge immediately pulls a gun. I'm not gonna say it.
What you about to do with that, Forge?
I was thinking a whole different reason.
And the Bishop's like, what you about to do with that gun, Forge? He's like, do I know you? And Bishop's like,
yeah?
In another time.
You my boy. We're boys. We dap up like you and Beast did in the future.
No, don't bring that up. Don't bring me back to that place. The most sauceless dap in the history of daps between Forge and Beast. They could have done anything other than dap, and it would have been acceptable.
Yeah.
But for them to like... I'm like, but you two should not be dapping under any circumstances.
Anyway, we're in Egypt. It's the past.
Well, Bishop's like, I heard you want some X-Men. I know where you can find some X-Men.
He said, no, I want the X-Men. You know, the X-Men, the cartoon X-Men. I don't
Yeah,
I don't.
The Bishop's like, well, I can't do that, but I can give you other X-Men.
Yeah,
in season 2.
In season 2. But what I will, he said, I'll give you some new X-Men.
What?
Nope. Give the new X-Men from Marvel Comics.
And then we end up in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Rogue is there.
Yeah, Rogue's there. Then Nightcrawler shows up. Then Beast is carrying Professor.
Rogue and Nightcrawler beat up some Egyptians.
Yeah, I really want to know what they're gonna. You know what's more intriguing than the whole the whole apocalypse stuff? Is Professor X gonna get like an ancient wheelchair? Or is Beast gonna have to carry him? Oh, they're gonna do like a backpack situation? That's funny. Anyway.
Yeah, Rogue and Nightcrawler immediately beat up some Egyptians. And the Egyptians are probably really freaked out.
Is that a woman fighting? Is probably what one of them thought.
Never mind the blue teleporting alien.
Are those white people?
Yeah, Beast is like, we're in the ancient times. We're in the old days.
Yeah, ancient Egypt, and one of them should have said. I think I remember somebody from the.
We're in the old days.
We're in the olden days. And
then we flash to the future.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, time displacement.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep, and Scott and Jean are there, right? It should just be Scott, Jean. I'm assuming Morph would be there.
We don't know where Wolverine and Morph are.
Yeah, Wolverine and Morph maybe went to a different time.
Yeah.
Where? Who's to say? Ooh, maybe they try to do the Powers of X thing and they do the, 100,000 million years in the... If they do the million years in the future thing, that would be crazy. But yeah, we get to the future. Scott and Jean are there. They see some, acolytes, essentially, and then this woman pulls up. What's the woman's name? I forget.
Mother Ascani.
Yep.
Ascani, yeah.
And then...
Which is, spoiler, it's Rachel Summers.
Right.
As Mother Ascani.
Right. And then, it's a family affair.
Yeah.
Called Mary J. Blige.
Because a little boy rocks up and is like, they're cool.
Yeah, they're cool. They're with me.
What do you mean by that? Nathan?
Huh?
What?
Son? Just no. And then they go to the past.
Then we go back to Egypt.
Yep, and then Professor X reads this...
Warrior?
Yeah, this warrior that, was fighting against those Egyptians. And he's just like, "Aw, crap. You're Apocalypse, aren't you?" He said, "What's your name, son?"
And Sabanor.
And
then we pan out to, futuristic-looking Egyptian city.
Yeah.
And Beast goes,
"Oh, dear." Still carrying Professor X, which I just don't know why it's so funny.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
And then, you didn't think we'd get a Marvel thing without a post-credit scene.
Heck yeah.
We go back to Genosha.
Yeah. And who is it?
The ruins of Genosha.
It's Prime Apocalypse. Ooh, Apocalypse. Still the best joke.
See how it all comes back around?
Yeah.
You thought that was just a throwaway line.
Nope.
But guess what? He's here.
Yeah, he is.
And he's him.
Yep. Apocalypse is just like, they don't kill my babies. They killed my babies.
Apocalypse is like, this ain't on. I don't like this.
Yeah, this ain't alright. I'm gonna deal with this. I'll take care of this.
Picks up a playing card and he's like, so much death.
This is like the equivalent to Mac Jones playing bad and somebody gets seriously injured and then prime Tom Brady rolls up. He's like, "I will avenge you, my son. I got you."
So much death.
Your death via Gambit from Marvel Comics.
Yeah, so we're getting Horseman Death Gambit next season for sure.
Yep.
Which will segue into regular Gambit returning.
Yeah, so what are you doing next season? You're doing Age of Apocalypse.
Yes.
Again?
Yes.
They did that in the 90s show, but it's going to be different this time? Because this time it's going to be this time's going to be wait, Apocalypse isn't as bad as we thought?
Yeah, they're going to do a little bit of that, I think.
That's the past. The past is going to be what they're going to do, and what I think they're going to do is
Oh, we should also note Magneto is with the Egyptian crew.
Yeah, he's in the past. Should have put him in the future. Now that would have played.
The future past?
Come on, man. We're not there yet. Or are we? I love Tenet. Anyway, is John David Washington a good actor? We'll get there, actually, in this very episode. We'll get there. Anyway, yeah, so basically, you're going to do Age of Apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
I think you're still going to pull elements from... I still think that...
They're going to do Savage Wolverine.
Yep, and maybe that's where they put them. They put them very, very, very far in the past again. And then it's this primal version of Wolverine, and Morph probably...
Brings him back.
Yeah, brings him back.
That'd be cool.
That would be interesting, too. What if Wolverine had... Oh, don't do the thing that they should have done in Fast 10. Do the relationship. Don't be afraid. Do it. Do it, you cowards.
Yeah. Yeah, do it.
What else are you doing?
New X-Men.
New X-Men obviously is going to be the Earth team. So
more Forge.
Yeah, more Forge. Bishop, Cable. and then you're gonna do some. I'm gonna assume Colossus, Magic, Roberto, Jubilee will be
Iceman.
Iceman will be part of the new X-Men. And Iceman's like, I already did this. I'm the old new X-Men. Doesn't count.
They're gonna bring Iceman out of retirement.
They are.
Or whatever he's doing.
You saw that, what's his name? Sean Astin was like, I'll do it. And everybody's like...
Sean Ashmore? Yeah.
Same guy.
No, wrong.
He's like, I will do it. And he's like, yeah, that's actually great.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be fun. But yeah.
Play a little bit more of a more accurate Iceman than we got in the movies.
Right. There's a lot
Would he be like Omega level Iceman at this point?
I would hope so. I would really, really hope so. I would very...
They kind of need like a heavy hitter on this new X-Men group.
I mean, your heavy hitter is...
Sunspot?
It's Cable.
I guess.
Cable with the telekinesis unlocked too.
Well, we don't know if he can really use it outside of being mind controlled yet.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But I mean, all in all, though, just final thoughts. The show never disappointed,
No.
not a once.
Just...
Like we watched those first 2 episodes going, surely they can't keep this up for 10 episodes, right? Like every Marvel show so far has had like that lull period.
It's the middle. It's the middle. I said it each time. It's the middle that keeps happening.
And the show did not have that.
Nope.
It was... And everything like came back around. Like everything that you thought was like filler. Like I know a lot of people will point to the episode 4 as like kind of filler, like the Jubilee Storm. But that Jubilee stuff comes back around in the finale. The Storm stuff obviously comes back around. Like, yes, her relationship with Forge was a little undercooked. I will concede that.
Yeah, there's things I can just straight up nitpick, but if as an overall, like, I just don't feel the need because of what we got. Like, thank God we got what we got.
Yeah.
I can sit here and nitpick anything out. I can sit here and find ways to nitpick the best movies I've ever seen in my entire life. I can find ways.
But just the level, the writing quality, the animation quality.
And it's just to take something, and it knows its tone. This might even be more difficult, too, because this is a place where tone can vary like an ocean, whereas other things are like, the tone will be the tone. Like, this takes whatever tone it has... And it could be as dumb and stupid as like Morph turning into Professor X in episode 1, and it can get as dark as 9/11 and Holocaust parallels. And this show knows how to level each time it does.
100%.
What a picture.
We went into this show thinking like, oh, this is gonna be like a fun little revisit nostalgia trip, to like the cartoon that we know and love. And it was that, but it was also way, way, way more than that, which I really appreciate because they could have just done a nostalgia bit of just be like, this is just a continuation of the 90s show, but they went into this with a point, with a message that they wanted to convey. Multiple, yeah.
And that's always what X-Men comics have been since the first one that was written. That's
exactly.
Always what X-Men This is the most realized the X-Men have ever been. And it's not even remotely close. This is it. Because
this is
what the movies fail to do is the movies very much always failed at the real world implications of what the X-Men are. I will die on that. I'm trying to think of any of them that truthfully understood it. X2 gets the closest, but X2 still plays as a romp superhero movie too. Like it still plays as that. Like this is the only thing from the X-Men in live and
media
where it's like, oh, this is actually dealing with like the stuff that Chris Claremont was talking about and the stuff that Stan Lee was talking about. Like this actually does the stuff. Like, I implore everybody to go through Claremont's run because Claremont actually dips into like this is the whole predication of his run is based off this. It's like the world kind of sucks because as much as we'll fight, like you still have people like Sinister that only want to experience that will take from us and still experiment on us, which is still a real world thing. You still have people like William Stryker, who I loved in the last episode or the second to last episode. They put him on like that Fox CNN panel thing that they always have on TV now of like this expert that is at the same time a hateful individual will talk on these things and people will listen to those things. Like this is real. Like, out of this animated show, we got the most real out of anything that we've probably gotten inside of the entire MCU. Outside of, like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
100%, man. 100%. And I just wasn't expecting it. And then, I'm telling you, man, that episode 2 was such a switchboard for me. That Magneto monologue. Honestly, the trial through the monologue just told me, like, oh.
Yeah, yep. Because episode 1 was my, like, oh, this show is, like, cool.
Good, yeah.
And then episode 2 is like, oh, this show is real. Like, this is actually real. Like, I think it's, like, a shell shock that it pulls because you're sitting there and you're just like, surely this this animated show isn't gonna like touch on these real world things, and then they're like, no, not only are we touching on it, this is the backbone of this very show, because episode 2 doesn't, and then once you hit episode 5, that's why it's so much of like you getting hit by a train, because it's you again. Episode 3, like 3 is like, ooh, you do some cool Storm and Jubilee stuff, and then episode 3 is like you do some cool X-Men lore stuff with Jean Grey, and then episode 4 is like, ooh, you get a little Jean Grey anthology, and then you get fan favorite character Storm just navigating herself without powers, and episode 5 is like, no, like, again, that line that she had about deja vu just, and it's that real world parallel, like, we get lulled to it. We get lulled to it through things that keep happening, like, you go about your everyday life, and then boom, it happens again. There's a mass shooting somewhere, boom, it happens again. Like, something bad happens again, and it's going to keep happening again and again. What a show.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Obviously super excited for another season. Yeah, man. I mean, I would say, all in all, just probably the best thing that they've done on TV, to be honest.
I just think this is one of the best things they've done, because this is, I'm not going to listen to this whole thing of like, this is going to be tougher to do in live action. No, it's not. I can't, after I see things like, you see things like Dune, and you see things like, you see things like Oppenheimer, like you see these like big Hollywood budget movies pulling off these incredible, these things are not impossible to pull off. We've seen it in the universe that this is coming from. We've seen it. Yeah.
And when you strip down like all the action and the wicked animation, like just the writing and the delivery of these
it's almost like
moments.
It's the most important thing that you can have.
That's what grabbed me.
Yep.
Like as cool. Obviously, the episode 1, the sequence with Cyclops and the sequence with Storm were really, really freaking cool. But what grabbed me was the Magneto stuff in episode 2, when I was just like, oh, the show is operating like on a completely different frequency from anything that they've done. Like, I don't think a character in the MCU has delivered a monologue as powerful as the episode 2 monologue from Magneto.
Right. There's never been a moment in the MCU that is you talk about like moments of like absolute defeat. I'm trying to like, the snap was inevitable, right? Like, pun and no pun intended, like the snap was always going to happen. Like, that's the thing about the Genosha massacre, is like, the snap was more of like a madman, trying to play God.
And they undid it.
Yeah, and they
ultimately
undid it. The Genosha massacre is something that, unfortunately, and throughout time, and that will happen again, that just a group of people are on the planet that their only sin was being born, essentially, to other people. Their only sin was just being made and being born. And they have to be murdered for it. That's it. That's all that was.
Yep. Yeah, and like you said, I don't think anything can top that in terms of like impact.
Yeah, I just think that what I'll leave with is it's very simple. Again, I'll keep beating this drum to the end, to the last breath that I give. It's not about what you're doing, it's about the personnel you have doing the thing, and it's also about what are you making? Are you making content or are you making art? That's two simple things you gotta ask. So hopefully the live action MCU takes cues, and hopefully any story that you have takes cues from this. And I mean, then you get stories like Black Panther 2. You get stories like Guardians 3, where, we can do this. Like, we can actually do things that mean something emotionally and mean something on like a human level and a humanoid level. Like, we're allowed to feel. Like, it's fine. Like, to much people's chagrin for Eternals, like, unfortunately, Eternals also had some of the biggest feel you can have. Like, that felt real. Like, that's okay to do that. So hopefully we get something with this combination of excellence, or something akin to this, and we'll be in for a treat. So
yeah,
that's it. That's the X-Men.
Yeah, just a massive hats off to everyone involved, from the writing to the animation, to the team at the team at Marvel Studios that oversaw this and greenlit it and gave it the go-ahead, because there was a time where I was doubting that they were capable of doing something like this. And I hope they lean into it. Yeah, I really do. Because it resonates. Yeah. It resonates with people. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to do it for us this week. Real briefly, in lieu of the things that we're doing, we both saw Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes last week.
We should call this the two minute drill that they do on ESPN. Yeah. A 2-minute review.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll time it. How about that? I'll time it.
Oh.
We'll see if we can get 2 minutes out of this.
All right.
Should we play the Chris Berman music?
Bum, 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 bum. Talk
right.
about a banger.
3, 2, 1. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Great. I really liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie way more than I thought I would. Spoiler alert. We'll just leave with that spoiler alert. I enjoyed that movie a lot. That movie was written by the Way of the Water writers, and what else did they write? They wrote Way of the Water and something else.
I forget what the other thing is.
However,
another family-related thing.
Right, and
we'll be writing the Fantastic Four as well.
Yes, that was it. And this makes me feel really good about the Fantastic Four. What they're able to do in this movie is. It's something incredible. They don't turn Caesar into a deity. They turn Caesar into an idea. Like, this idea of, like, this is, like, really crazy, but, like, the idea of him, he is gonna turn into, like, that god figure, but he's getting there. He's on the waves, and, unfortunately some people will misinterpret that, and the villain that played by Kevin Durand, not Kevin Durant, it's Kevin Durand, who does a great job. The performances in this movie are great. This movie is surprisingly emotional as well too.
The special effects, obviously, still just pristine in this franchise.
The actor that played Raka, new fan favorite character Raka. Any of the orangutans that get brought into these movies, just immediate fan favorites. But it's a really good time. And I was saying to myself as I was leaving, because in 3 days I saw Challengers, I saw The Fall Guy, and I saw Planet of the Apes, and I said, regardless of the reviews, where you want to fall in these movies, I just love the movies, man. I love the movies. I love the cinema. I love what we're able to go. I get to be able to go transport to somewhere else for 2 to 3 hours, resonate with these characters, and then think about it on the way out. I think that's why we make the movies.
Yeah, and just a great launch point for this franchise where they just accelerated the timeline into a new place, and we're going to start over in this established world. I was super, super impressed with it. Yeah. Especially, Andy Serkis had such gravitas with the Caesar character, and for them to be able to transcend that into a whole nother group of characters was really, really, really special to watch. It's
almost like that original trilogy was like an origin story, essentially it was an origin story for the actual Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Yeah, in a way.
And huge spoiler alert, but we're doing the space stuff, which I could not believe they were even taking a swing at doing the space stuff. And it calls back to a cameo that I freaking forgot from Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where the newspaper gets thrown before Caesar attacks the neighbor, and it says "Lost in Space." So what I think is going to happen is they're going to go, that space crew probably put themselves into cryo sleep, and they're going to come back to the planet, and they're going to be like, what the actual hell happened on here, and why are there apes running around? Why can they talk? Why is that one so cool? Like, they're going to be like, what's going on?
Are we going to build to the Statue of Liberty?
Yes, yep, 100%. Because I think, and I thought about this too, just adding actors into this franchise. Like, I was thinking about who do you get. I don't know why I keep coming back to Steven Yeun. Like, I feel like he would be a good one to come back to Earth and be like, what the heck?
That's a flawless Steven Yeun impression.
Yeah, so I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
In 5 movies, I believe, for that franchise. Wes Ball did a great job. I told you this walking out of the theater. I loved how they navigated camera-wise, how they navigated through the space. It allowed me to be with them, essentially, which you gotta do for characters that are new. You gotta let me live in their space a little bit, too, so I thought it did a really good job at that as well, too. Technically sound, great third act sequence.
Yeah.
Emotional third act sequence, too. It was awesome. Awesome, man. Great
Agreed. That is going to do it for us this week. You can follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram.
At the Project Infinite Pod.
Next week, what did we say? Furiosa, maybe?
Furiosa. Cannes Film Festival's going on. A lot of great movies. And Megalopolis is coming out of Cannes Film Festival right now. And apparently Furiosa is just immaculate, which I was not expecting that. I truthfully was not expecting it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, some people are saying this is better than Fury Road.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But I mean,
Fury Road's an all-timer.
Yeah, but just some of the reviews that are coming out of Furiosa are just calling this one of the best movies of this year. So we'll do that next week, provided we can both get out to see it.
So yeah, that'll be it. We'll do some cinema next week. That closes the door on X-Men 97. Just an absolute revelation. The last 10 weeks.
This is going to change a lot of things.
I hope so.
Think about
so.
How to go about these projects. This is going to change a whole lot of things.
I really hope so. Yeah, man. And it really does feel like that they barely scratched the surface with this, which, as incredible as that sounds.
Yeah, this might be one of those things where like it's like the thing where like, you know how like some actors become directors. You're like, oh, you should have been doing this the whole time. Like this feels more important than this show just existing.
Yeah,
it feels like this is going to do a lot of heavy lifting for a lot of things.
I 100% agree. So, like I said, shout out to everyone involved in that project, writing, animation team. They just knocked it so far out of the park that I don't even know how you follow it up. But
Deadpool and Wolverine.
we kept saying that every episode of X-Men 97 was, I don't know how you follow that up, and they continued to raise and exceed the bar. So I expect season 2 to be no different. To be honest, they've officially earned that gravitas that I have full faith that a second season will deliver. So yeah, next week we'll talk about Furiosa. Until then, from me,
man. Careful. You say Bishop, I'm walking out.
No, I wasn't gonna say Bishop.
You say Storm, I'm walking out.
Nope.
You say Morph, I'm walking out.
From the Daredevil of the podcast, the Daredevil cameo of the podcast.
I'll take it.
He was doing some things.
He was.
Then he got knocked through that window.
But then.
Don't
say Cloak or I'll walk out.
The Cloak and Dagger showed up and they're like...
Don't say Dagger or I'll walk out.
What does that mean?
I don't know, man.
Alright. We'll see you next week for Furiosa. Goodbye.
Yahoo! Why did he do that?
I don't know.